Due to technical difficulties with Zoom, unfortunately, the first portion of the meeting was lost.
It looks like we're still having some technical difficulties, but we're going to have to move ahead with it anyway. So.
I can't hear anything back there. This PA system needs to be
Turn the speakers.
but the mics need to be turned up. So it's just muffled.
Do you want me to turn the middle ones?
Turn them so that they're quite the crowd. Thank you. All right, so so what happened is we put these adapters, power adapters in the desk. They're supposed to plug in and charge. It's the first time I've used it, and obviously it doesn't work. So this is going to be difficult to be, anybody who wants to watch this afterwards is going to have trouble because I'm on a different device that's not recording with the microphones. It's just picking up the audio from the room. So hopefully it'll pick it up enough.
It wasn't on.
All right, so let's move forward. And you want to speak, so go ahead, ma'am. And then did you want to speak too? Okay, a couple more.
That speaker wasn't on.
What's that?
That speaker was not on.
Well, who turned it off?
I don't know, I turned it on.
Can you hear out there now? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening, Faye Nummer. I represent the American Chamber of Commerce. I do want to remind the Board of Trustees that you are elected by these residents, including the business owners, the small and mom and pop shops. The person that went before me, he talked about McDonald's being a corporation. McDonald's doesn't have a track record of EPA violations. I welcome you to research the EPA violations track record of sheets. I also would like to discuss the economic impacts. My background is in accounting and finance. When we talk about incremental revenue generation, when we talk about new jobs created, think about what's happening there. There's cannibalization of revenue that's happening from smaller businesses around that area. There are a reallocation of the employees from existing places of employment to this gas station. So you're really not neutral from an economic standpoint. From an economic impact standpoint, you're not neutral. Just, for anyone that's trying to save new jobs or incremental revenue investing in our city, they really are not. And as far as competition,
Recording in progress.
We're all fighting for fair competition, fair and equitable competition. And when you look at the pricing strategy
by selling 88 octane fuel, which has 15% ethanol, which is a greater amount than your typical fuel. So as a consumer, you are being misled to think that you're getting a lower price fuel, but you're getting lower fuel economy. So we don't stand for misleading and deceptive consumer and predatory marketing tactics. In addition to the EPA violations, I ask this Board of Trustees to also look at the litigation that the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has brought against Sheetz for their discriminatory hiring practices. Is that the type of employer you want in your Highland Township? If you drive through Ohio, you'll find a lot of Sheetz, but they're on I-75, on freeways. They're truck stops on I-75. They're not embedded in congested neighborhoods and community places that are next door to a child care center, next door to an elementary school. They are on freeways. So keep that in mind. And they typically go for 2, 3, 4 acre lots because that accommodates the size of gas station that they operate. Your typical neighborhood gas station, its average size is half an acre to an acre. It's not 3 acres, it's not 4 acres. Something to keep in mind. And, as a Board of Trustees, you have the option to do a public hearing. Yes, the Planning Commission can do one, but the Board of Trustees can do one. Look at other municipalities that cater to their residents, that want to hear from their residents. They value their opinions, they value their inputs. They can do a first reading of the proposal. They can do a second reading. They can hold a separate standalone public hearing. Why is this being fast-tracked? You need to answer to the residents. Thank you. Trustee Howe, just one last comment. $10,000. $10,000 is a large price to pay to protect your residents from all of the concerns that we've raised tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Steve Johnson, 4616 Desert Bridge Court. So I would like to just kind of flat out no on the gas station at Wardlow and Milford Road. I just think that is, everybody's talking about Sheets. That's a big company that, we've had that building on M59 for as long as I've lived in Highland. And it's just been an empty eyesore. I've never saw it in operation. So somebody's willing to spend some money, and I don't know who owns the property, but it takes a couple of people to make a deal happen, right? You've got to have a seller, a buyer, and somebody willing to invest money to improve that. I don't know that I really want Sheets there, but I want something different than what is there now. I mean, I appreciate the fact that somebody's willing to come in, invest money, improve that property. I don't know if there's anything that we might be able to do that kind of fits better with sort of, kind of our downtown master plan, whatever. You take kind of a quaint little town and then you stick this big, kind of truck stop size gas station or whatever in it. Maybe it doesn't fit too well. Some good arguments, I think, as far as, people in off hours that need certain kinds of fuel, or, those that go to work early in the morning or whatever. Those are all great things. So there's a public service part of it there. There's the nuisance part of it. But it's a heck of a lot better looking building than what is there. A professionally managed company maintaining that property, where now I don't know. Are there any options to, I'll ask a question, I guess, are there any options to just clear that land and sell it as a vacant property, or is there any other development option other than Sheets? Is anybody, any other?
Well, in the 12 years that I've been working on it, nobody.
Nobody.
And the owner of that property has kept the doors wide open. I mean, the part that's hard for people to understand is you can't pick somebody to be in a spot.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you start getting the small retailers. The people that are small retailers are self-starters, individuals who want to be totally responsible for themselves. They don't always have the ability to be able to spend the money. They usually have to rent a space.
Right.
They don't have that. And if they, like we have a lot of strip malls here, when you've got a space that you're renting and you're a business person, you're at the whim of the individual that owns that building. Right. They raise the rents, it could put you out of business. So what happens is, if you make the choice, I was in business for myself. I retired from my own business. You have to understand that the world changes, and I'm not trying to freak anybody out here on anything. I used to own the property where the library and the post office are today. And that used to be a garden center and a landscape business. When Home Depot and Lowe's came in, it changed my life completely. But I changed the format of how I did things. I had to look at my whole operation and say, okay, I have to compete in a way that they don't. And I was successful enough at it that I could retire when I was 55. And I did that. And so not everybody has that opportunity to be able to do that, but if you're going to take on the role of being a self-employed individual, which is usually a small business, you have to take on the possibility that you have a short lifespan as a business owner, because you a lot of times don't control those things. I mean, number one is if you're renting to operate your business, you're at the whim of the landlord.
Right.
And those things change. The landlords change, things change. And I've seen so many businesses. My wife's a CPA.
Mhm.
She specializes in tax work for small businesses. She has over 800 clients, all small businesses. And I get to witness very often these individuals come in trying to figure out how they can stay alive in the environment that they're in, regardless of whether it's Sheetz or Walmart or Lowe's or whatever. So it's not that you can pick things. I'm going to be very, I normally don't do this, but I'm going to do it. We have our downtown development authority.
Mhm.
I've been on that for 12 years as a supervisor and an additional 3 years as just a person that showed up every month to participate after I'd retired. My goal was what can we do with this little downtown? Well, there's this one stinking hair that makes it an impossibility every time, and that's sewer. No sewer, no business. As a homeowner, the health department cannot put you out of your house. But as a business owner, they can shut you down. And they can make it so you can't open a business. So you can't just say, oh, we want to make this quaint little downtown. You got to get people who want to come to it too. Well, how do they come to something that is just residential houses? You can't turn them into commercial units because they generally won't handle the septic load. And now you're dealing with so if you can see where I'm coming here, this little downtown has got a lot of problems. And the problems are it can't grow. It can't develop the type of retail that people might want to see without some type of sewer and we've been working on that, but
Right.
It's not something anybody wants to eat. They don't want to eat the cost of that. So the point being that I'm not jumping up and down about having another gas station. Denise Pastanza is totally correct. We are the car dealership, the storage unit, and the gas station capital of West Oakland County.
Mhm.
And guess what? This board is not the one that picks that. It's the individuals that came to our community and bought the gas stations or built the businesses that made those choices with that property. Some of them you can do. If you're talking about a B&B or whatever, or well, that's an opinion on your part. I'm not trying to cover up anything. So my point, sir.
She's the most unfriendly small.
Sir. Please.
Fast track.
You said your point. Please, let me finish. So the point is that I think we all would have liked to had something else, but what? Like I said, if I said brewery, almost everybody would go, hey, yeah, brewery in there. Cool, brewery. What's a brewery? Alcohol distributor and a restaurant. But it's alcohol distributor. Well, there's a school there. I mean, so you can find something wrong with everything like that. But my point being is, couldn't make those work.
Right. Couldn't
Find that person. There's somebody who wanted to turn it into more of an industrial type use. It's not zoned for that. So they couldn't do that. And you can't have outside storage. And there's all these things that are ordinances that are there to try and help guide how this community looks. But what I'm getting at is this is an opportunity to get rid of an eyesore.
Yep.
That I think that what the replacement of that eyesore is a lot better option than nothing.
Yeah.
And so it's my opinion. Okay, so I'm gonna stop. But anyways, thank you for your opinion.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
It's a huge.
Well, let him finish.
It's a huge amount of capital to buy that piece of property. I don't know that you mentioned the person that owns it, but to kind of sit on that property for as long as they have. I guess they're looking for a pretty good price. I mean, it's a high traffic area, kind of looking at all those real estate agent sort of numbers as far as cars that go by and all that stuff. So nobody's going to give that property away. But, and I get what you're saying, like, you can't choose who's going to buy it. So, you know, it's kind of like, um, yeah, I don't know what the answer is. You know, I'm not opposed to Sheets, but I'm not for Sheets. The Wardlow and Milford Road gas station, I think that's not a good idea. I'll leave it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yep.
Yes. The Sheets facility? Have you seen it yet? Sitting on that, you're going to, sitting on that parcel right now is 20,000 square foot of buildings. Sheets building is 6,000 square feet. 6,000 square feet. Huge downsize, so yes. Okay, any other comments? Somebody who hasn't spoken before. Yes, sir.
I'm David McKay. I live 636 East Wardlow. I think it gets back to money. And now how much taxes are coming in from that building? Not much. What about? No, the building that's sitting out there.
Nothing.
Okay, so how much money is that bringing into the city? I mean, you guys don't get all of the money, state gets it too, right? Okay, so what are you guys getting from that? And what are we gonna get from what Sheets is gonna bring us in taxes? Is that gonna make a difference to you guys?
Well, the difference it makes to me as the township supervisor is that it's a company that's coming in that is willing to invest in our community. And that's what their goal is, to invest in this community. One of the things I did when I researched Sheets is they are very magnanimous in giving to the community through different types of community projects and programs, to poor, to you name it. They have a lot of gifting that they do. The other part is the school over here. Anybody that knows anything about the school had an issue with their well. Their water looked like it come out of a rust bucket. One of the things that we're able to do is to be able to get this company to be able to pay to take the water from the other side of Milford Road, which is at Ruggles, and bring it all the way to the school.
Good.
And that's
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
$500,000 in
What are they going to do for us? That's what I'm getting at. I don't care about how much money you guys actually make. It's just, what are they going to do to help us? I mean, if you guys can take 2 cents of every dollar and put it in a cup for us for something else and put a tariff on it. I don't care what you want to call it. You know, I mean, what? I mean, we should get something out of it. That's my point. Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. And I think that what we're getting out of it is we're getting rid of an eyesore. We're going to have something that's.
I agree with that. I was going
A
to.
higher tax base. I mean,
the
school system's going to benefit.
Yeah.
Sweetly off of this, you know, in a couple of ways. They're getting a new water supply. They're getting some resources for the use of the empty field over here. So there's give back. Unless they don't build, then it doesn't happen. But there's give back. And the other part of it is that it's that everybody's saying it's going to be all brightly lit. Well, one of the things that is a requirement is that it is not brightly lit like that. So they're
Build it and they will come. There's nothing you can do about that. Right. It's
okay.
Like they said,
Thank you very much.
It's going to happen.
Appreciate it. All right. Any more?
I will have to look at it. We have to see what it's assessed at.
Them to like downsize, like maybe 6 pumps instead of 14 pumps. Make certain restrictions.
Is that it?
We can talk to them. I'm not sure that we have that ability. We'll do it. I mean, we've talked to them about a bunch of stuff and they're working with us. So.
Yes, sir.
That's sir.
Jim North, 1627 Apollo Highland. Hear a lot of talk about change, scares people. Scares me sometimes too. Getting rid of that eyesore, I agree wholeheartedly. It should be done if there's a way to get it done. This sounds like a possible way. A lot of people have a big concern about, it seems like if we allow this to happen, all of a sudden we open up the floodgates to all the big box stores. My question is, or my concern, I guess, needs to be answered, is are we giving up the right to make decisions about every other opportunity that may come down the road? Whether it's a Walmart, Home Depot, whoever it may be, do we not still have that ability to say yes or no? Are we somehow foregoing that by approving sheets that would make us say yes to the next person?
The answer to that is no, we're not forgoing that.
Thank you.
And here's another thing that I think a lot of people need to understand. Is that I'm pretty sure that far into the future, one of the things that's going to be a hallmark of Highland is what's called the scenic corridor. Now, scenic lights, I mean, you could laugh at me for that one. From Willow Road or East Highland to the railroad bridge, there is no more building that can be done on any of that. That's all state land. When you go just here to John Street, all the way down to Hickory Ridge Road, no more building. So we're going to have the only scenic corridor on M59. Heartland's going to build itself right to its borders, and that's because of sewer. And one of the things that we have to, when I say there's no sewer, you have to watch what you ask for. We are going to be put in a position where at some point in time, we're going to be forced to have sewers. And it's not going to be a pretty thing, because the more we wait, the more expensive it's going to get. But what you do is you do it in a way that protects those areas that maintain the rural environment. If you've got large lots, 10 acres, 5 acres, you're never going to need a sewer. And if you don't run the sewer or allow it to go into those areas, you protect that rural atmosphere. So what you have to do is you have to look at the corridors of the sewer might be necessary. One is in your commercial district, and the other one is your lakefronts. So the lakefronts are high density, high impact, and they're the ones that are polluting the lakes and streams with their septic systems. Not every septic system's failing, but a lot of them will. So that's where the concentration needs to be. That's the east side. So we don't have any more place to put any more stuff in Highland. We've got these 4 corners, only 3 of them now. Southeast, southwest, and the northwest. So there's isn't any place else. There's a couple of pieces of property along Milford Road to the south, and there's some parcels to the north. One that is the other gas station request. So we have very little commercial in this community, and it's very restricted. And you take a corner like that out there that's got the volume of traffic it has. And one of the ironies is that you got average of 22 accidents a year at that intersection. And you've got probably in excess of 50,000 cars a day that go down that road. So if you take you want to do percentages, it's a very small amount. And almost every single one of those are from people who are failing to pay attention at the intersection and slam into the back end of somebody right there at that light heading east. Because it's a downhill run, wintertime, slippery, so on and so forth, and people who run red lights. So it's not going to add the traffic, dump it right into M59. The only outlets are at John Street, which already has traffic coming in and out of it, and then at Milford Road. So the irony is people self-select. That's another thing. If it doesn't look like they can get into that gas station, they're going to go to the other gas station. So I digress. Anyways, we don't have a choice all the time. Rarely do we have a choice of what we can do with things. I used to own the building on the corner, the Mech building it's called, that is across, it's on the northeast corner of Milford and Livingston Road. And I bought that because I wanted to maintain that look of Highland. But guess what? I held on to that thing for 12 years and could do nothing with it because no sewers. So this is a case of you can wish all you want about what you think you want in your community, but you can't make it happen. You have to work with what appears to come in and make it happen. And so in this scenario, and I appreciate the gentleman from Pennsylvania that commented about what happens when you bring other competition in. And if you bring in good competition that's got quality product or whatever you want to call it, it helps people grow. Why do McDonald's park themselves next to Taco Bell's, next to Chick-fil-A's, next to, how many more fast food restaurants? How many more restaurants do we need? That's the biggest thing. Everybody's, oh, we need another restaurant. For what? Same thing. So do we need more storage facilities? I don't think so, but they're all full. So it's what you can do with the land. It's what gets done with the people that have the resources to do it. And guess what? The average person doesn't have the money to make it work. And I could tell you right now, probably Mr. Hanna will kill me, but maybe he wouldn't. You want to keep that corner open. Get together a consortium of people, buy it and leave it open. We might even take it off the tax roll so you don't have to pay taxes for it. But if you're not willing to make that offer to somebody to do that, then you have to leave it to the property owner to make the decision what they feel is the best return over time and for the community. And Mr. Hanna has always been very clear that he only would entertain top-notch, top-level businesses. And you can't build a business for $1 million anymore. You got to buy that land over there. Number one, it was, I think it went for $500,000 12 years ago, 10 or 12 years ago. What is that today? That's several $1 million. Now you got to get somebody to come in and develop it. I think Sheets is probably, I wouldn't be surprised if they got $10 million invested in that operation when they're done. Who has the resources to do that here? That's why it hasn't been developed, and that's why it looks like crap over there. And another thing that really I've thought about this is there are a lot of comments that said, we've moved out here for the rural atmosphere. I don't disagree with that. That's been my goal, to try and how do we maintain that rural atmosphere and not destroy it? Well, the way you do it is you keep open land. That's not a piece of open land over there. So what you have to do is consider that if you look at the rural residential, let's say the rural properties, what you might see in your mind is a barn. And what did almost every single barn look like? They're caved in, people didn't take care of them, or they're horse farms that people don't, they just run them into the ground. And we have a lot of that in Highland. That's no different. If you want to keep that building because you don't want something to be there, I understand how you feel. I do understand, because I'm not jumping up and down over this. But it's an opportunity, and it's also a situation where this board has a responsibility to follow certain guidelines, that we have to answer questions. And if that candidate that comes to us fulfills those questions, our board is required, shall is the words, vote for it. It's not a may. So the point being, we're sitting here and I'm listening to everybody. Yeah. Am I afraid that, everybody's going to mob me? No. Am I afraid of being elected again? No. Never was afraid in the first place, because I don't need the job. I'm doing it because I love this place. This is difficult. This is the crap I always thought, oh God, I don't want to do this. But we have to sometimes change the way it looks here. And I'll give you some answers. Who lives in Axford Acres? When I moved here, it was a farm. A farm. And now it's nothing but houses. Took away the rural atmosphere. No, it didn't. Because you still have scenic corridors. You got Harvey Lake Road that just looks like and Hickory Ridge Road. And we've maintained the dirt roads as scenic byways. We are maintaining the rural atmosphere. There's some things that come in. I'll agree with you. The J Chevrolet thing, there's some people who lost their jobs over that. There was a recall over that. Okay. Is it a mistake? For some people, yes. I don't understand why they have to have all those lights on. That's one of these requirements that they think they have to have. These are changes that are being made. Sheets, their lighting is down to the ground. It's not lit up like the car dealerships. They're doing the things that we've asked. They're landscaping the crap out of the thing so that it has the look and feel that we want to maintain the downtown, a canopy, that kind of a thing. So, yeah, I don't like this feeling. I don't like to disappoint people. But at the same token, I have a job to do. And I was voted into office by a lot of people. And there are a lot of people that we got responses from equal to the number of people in this room that were in favor of it. So I can't just discount those that showed up, but I'll give you kudos for being the ones that did show up. It's very disappointing when people, it's the laziness of the voter of today, not to show up. Forget it. It doesn't mean anything, but oh yeah, we like the place, you know. So kudos to you that show up and want us to vote the way you want us to vote. Sometimes we don't have a choice to do it the way you want. And it's by design that I didn't come up with. This has been, I mean, we put one off, we put the Wardlow Road off, one because the board is going, wow, man, I don't understand how we have to do this thing. Well, guess what? Today's the day we got to do it. And we're gonna have to make a decision, and none of us are allowed to talk to each other in terms of to drive this thing, you know, it's against the Open Meetings Act, and so it's against the law. It's punishable by jail time. I don't want to go to jail. So we have to work together. We have to go. Each one of us is our own person. So there's 7 votes here. It could pass or it might not pass. So from this point, I appreciate everything that you guys have said. I appreciate your interaction in the community. I'm dead sincere about that because I know some of you will be pissed off, I'm sure. Not much I can do about that, but just say thanks for at least being pissed off and telling me about it. So we have to move forward now. I'm not taking any more. Joe would like to say something.
Just, I want to point, you mentioned you would be possibly considered buying the property. Would all the residents be considered to buy that property? How many would come together and want to buy that property? What's the value of that property? What's the selling price?
Rick, you want me to answer that?
North on Milford Road.
Hold on a second. Hold on. This is the answer from the owner. Okay, Mr. Hannah.
Rick, first you mentioned something. I want to say hello to everyone and thank you for the time you're spent. And I agree with Rick. We may not get all the response we want if it's my way or anybody else's, but much appreciate the effort of attending this. For the record, just to correct something, Rick, you mentioned 500,000. That was just the lumber yard.
Correct. I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
It's okay. The bike shop was 175. The other shop was 175 on the other corner. The auto parts was 150. The house was another 15,000 that burned down. And I've owned it for 30 years. For 30 years, I tried to bring restaurants. I tried to bring something different that changes the entrance into Highland. And believe me, folks, not having the sewers and not having the water, that's why it is the way it is. And of late, the T-Mobile store, T-Mobile ordered a shutdown because of reconsolidating, and that left it totally empty. So over 30 years, I probably have a couple of $1 million in it. So if this is something that's discussed, sure, come together and put what is Sheets willing to pay about close to, I'm sorry, not pay, but build around $8 to $9 million. The water line alone is costing over $500,000 to get to the school, which we are paying for it. And moving the park, the train station to the Veterans Park, that's another $250,000. So if you're willing to put this together, go ahead and write a check. It's in the upper $4.5 million, and I'll make a deal with you all.
Okay, we didn't get anybody jump up right away. But anyways, and I'm sure Sheets doesn't want to hear that kind. But thanks, Isaac. I think what we need to do now. I can't hear you. Have you looked at the price of a house lately? Yeah, they've quadruples. Okay, so everybody have a seat if you aren't seating already. And I'm gonna invite the Sheets people up and we're gonna do let them give a presentation. Now I gotta try and find what I had here. Where did it go? Am I in the right one? Yes.
Good evening, everyone.
Beth, would you turn the lights down? All right, we're going to turn the lights down a little bit so that it does justice to this. Like you said, the size of this building, everybody's talking about big truck stop. This is not a big truck stop. This is actually a standard gas station, not Standard Oil, but a standard gas station.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alex Sawicki from Sheets. You could find me at 39300 West 12 Mile Road, Farmington Hills, Michigan. So we've heard a lot this evening, and before I get to We've heard a lot this evening, and before I get to answer all of your questions, I wanted to just take a minute or two to introduce those of you who are not familiar with who Sheets is to who we are. So Sheets was founded in 1952 by Bob Sheets in Altoona, Pennsylvania. That's about 45 minutes south of State College, if you know where that's at. And over 70 years later, and nearly 800 locations later, we are still wholly owned and operated by the Sheets family. No franchises. It's the Sheets family that reports to work every single day. There's about 15 Sheets family members that come in at various levels throughout our organization, including one who is overseeing our development efforts here in Michigan. So I can personally attest to their involvement in the business every single day. And what that does for us is it really allows us to put forward a top-notch offer. So those of you who have never been to a Sheets, you might not realize that we actually started as a restaurant and convenience store decades before we started selling fuel. And we still really hold true to those values to this day. So when you walk into our stores, you can actually get our made to order, the MTO food program. You'll see that MTO logo around. And you can customize just about anything you can think of any way you want it, any time of day. You can get 1.8 million different combinations of food out of our kitchen. We also offer that same customization through the Sheets Brothers Coffee Bar. So you can get milkshakes, espresso, smoothies, etc. And of course, we have that convenience offering that has all the snacks and chips and beverages that you want, but it also has a really robust grocery offering. which I really want to highlight because it's especially important with our 24-hour use. You need milk at the 2 a.m, we have you covered. We have milk, eggs, bread, cheese, all sorts of different things that you could possibly think of. Talking about local investment here. So the construction costs of this project are going to be well north of $10 million. That's just the construction costs. Most of that is spent using local contractors. All of the money spent on our engineering work is spent local. You're going to have increased tax assessments on this property, and increases to that property value up the road. We also are a very philanthropic organization. So we have donations to local food banks every single week out of every location. Last year, we provided over 50 million meals. We also partner with Special Olympics at every level, state, national, and local. We do donations to local schools and organizations. We also have Sheets for the Kids, which is really our pride and joy organization, where we do a lot of different things like do Make-A-Wish and that type of thing. But also one of the main initiatives is around the holidays every year. Every single store, the employees go out and be Santa's elves, and they go and shop for kids that are in need in the community to help them have a brighter holiday season. There's also going to be 30 to 35 local jobs, preferably full-time if an employee's availability allows it. And we have top-notch benefits, medical, dental, paid time off, all the financial benefits like 401k, quarterly bonuses, tuition reimbursement, so much more. I really like to point out the tuition reimbursement because that's kind of close to my heart. I started at Sheets as an electrician. Sheets paid for me to go to school, and now I'm at our engineering group. So really awesome organization to work for. And they can prove that because we're on some of these lists of best companies to work for in the country. So you guys are probably familiar with the Fortune 500, the 500 largest publicly traded companies in the country to work for. Well, Fortune also puts out a list of the top 100 best companies to work for. Sheets has been on that list for the past decade.
Well, sorry. Okay, keep going.
Sounds better. Okay, so we're talking about up the road here. It's about a 2-acre site. We're proposing to build a 6,139 square foot restaurant and convenience store. It'll have 7 fuel pumps, double-sided, and it's going to have that convenience drive-through. And you can see up on the screen that Mr. Hamill put some of our computer-generated renderings of what the site could look like. So this one is if you're looking from North Milford Road west into the site.
Yep.
This is from the corner looking southwest. So this is like where the train station would be. Off of Highland Road, M59.
That's from M59.
So this is looking southeast from the corner of John and Highland Road. And looking east from John. Then I think we'll have some, looking northeast, excuse me, on John Street.
This is the southwest corner.
Mhm.
Ruggles and John Street.
And then you'll have some aerials of what it potentially could look like. These are computer generated, so there's things that aren't quite right compared to the plan. The plan is the central source of truth, but these give you a pretty good idea of what it would look like. We're doing a lot of things to make sure we fit into the community here, like having the mansard roof on our building. That's not something that we've actually done anywhere in the nearly 800 locations we've done. The monument sign out on the corner of John and Highland is also pretty special. So on the bottom, we are proposing to have a joint use with the township to bring their mobile sign trailer that they typically have over here on the corner, the other corner, to have it down there as a permanent fixture. That way the city township can do their messaging as they see fit. And also we, as a testament to the historic nature of the township, we are going to be utilizing the cobbles that are on the existing building on the lot here to have on that sign as that sign's facade. Something else you don't see in these renderings, because it's a fairly recent addition, where the train station depot is today, we intend to put a welcome to Highland Station sign. Again, using those same cobbles, but to preserve that historic nature and to welcome you into the downtown area of Highland. So I know you guys have a lot of questions, but I do want to focus our efforts this evening on the special land use. That's what we are here to request, special land use for fuel. And the township has 7 criteria that have to be met. I wanted to go through them real quickly. So number 1 is all special land uses shall be designed and located, planned and operated so that the public's health, safety and welfare will be protected. So your planning staff, your planning consultant and planning commission all agree this standard is met. We have specifically designed this site plan to alleviate any potential nuisance that may occur from the site. Number 2, special land use be consistent with the stated intent of the zoning district. So we comply with this standard. Again, all of those bodies, including the planning commission, agreed our use is permitted in this zoning district. Number 3, the proposed special land use shall be in general agreement with the master plan designation for the area where the use is proposed. Again, staff and planning commission agree this standard is met. Our use is included in the master plan as part of this zoning district. Number 4, all special land uses, shall provide facilities for the safe and convenient vehicular and pedestrian traffic. This standard is met. We've provided a traffic impact study to the township and to the county, and their engineers have agreed that this standard is met. Number 5, all special land uses shall be designed, constructed, and operated in a manner that prevents detrimental impacts to surrounding properties. This standard is met. Again, planning commission and staff agreed. We have specifically designed this site again to alleviate any potential nuisance, and we continue to work with township staff on additional landscaping recommendations, which we are very much open to. Number 6, proposed special land use shall not unreasonably burden the capacity of public services or facilities. This standard is met. Again, the county and township engineers all agreed in their report. And then number 7, the proposed special land use shall comply with any specific standards set forth in Article 10. Fuel is not mentioned in Article 10, so we actually do meet this standard. With that, my team and I are here to answer your questions.
Okay, board have any questions?
I don't have any specific questions of them, Mr. Supervisor, but I did, while we were sitting here, I think everybody was talking about the size of the station and whatnot. I did take a quick look and compare it in size to the rest of the stations that are in Highland. You have 7 pumps, correct, is what you said?
Yes, sir.
7 double-sided pumps. Citgo at Hickory Ridge Road has 5. Mobile by the Salvation Army, just across the street, has 6. BP at Hickory Ridge Road has 7, and Shell on Milford Road by Lone Tree has 6, 5, maybe, I can't exactly see. So I don't find this to be a lot larger as been put forth than some of the other stations we have in our community. Pretty equal size. We do have, and I would like to also say that I'm on the planning commission as well. So I'm the liaison between the planning commission and the township board. And there was a comment made that there was some fast tracking going on or something like that. And what our job is to review and make sure it meets the criteria that's on our ordinance. And that's really on the applicant to come to us with a plan that meets those things and supplies who's unknowns to us or whatever. And they did a really good job. There was no fast tracking. Sheets did a very good job of talking with the township, planning before, looking at our ordinance and our zoning and meeting those requirements. And he did mention the landscaping was one thing. And the landscaping, actually, I believe they're trying to work with just the varieties of trees and stuff like that. They met every requirement that was required of them in the area. And so all the lights have to be a dark sky compliant. That's an ordinance that's kind of not new, but newer. So that means they had to supply us with a lighting plan that shows us what light is going to leave their site, which means that they can't have candle powers basically going beyond their sight lines, which they supplied to us. So it wasn't like, the parking spaces and everything like that is dictated within our ordinance. So because of the indoor usage of the restaurant mixed with the fuel station and everything like that, they have to provide a certain amount of parking spaces, a certain amount of ADA parking spaces, a certain amount of room for their dumpster, a certain amount of stacking spaces for their drive-through. One thing the planning commission found that I was personally liked was that they have a touchless screen for their drive-through. So it doesn't have that speaker that, especially during the day, at night, whatever you want to call it, walking by it, they don't have that noise of people talking back and forth. They do have a little outdoor dining area, but we were very happy with a lot of the things. The DDA also, because this is in Highland Station as part of the DDA reviewed this before it came to the planning commission. They also came to the planning commission meeting and gave us their thoughts on it, what they'd like to see and their screening requirements. And Sheets has been very open to making changes as far as making it fit into our community with the different types of stone that they're going to use. And like he said, reusing some of the cobble from the house that's on the southwest corner of the property. So I like the idea that this is moving. It's moving it away from 59 as it is right now. A lot of the pavement's going to be removed. It's going to set it back. There's going to be more trees, more green belt than's currently there. And I think they've optimized. That's a small site. It's other than the fact that they're going to have some indoor operations. It's not really a larger gas station than we have in Highland. So those are some of my initial thoughts, Mr. Chair.
Okay, anybody else have any?
I've always been concerned about making sure that we keep a green belt, visual from 59. And it looks like the vegetation that is showing there, would accommodate a more rural feeling for a commercial site. Florida has a lot of developments down there where you can't hardly even see the gas stations because they have a lot of vegetation where they kind of cloak the entrances. So this kind of sets that particular tone.
I saw some comments online about concerns about noise and possibly playing of music to the outdoors. Can you speak to that?
Sure. So we do play music outside, very soft, really just background noise, kind of like you're in an elevator, right? But one of the things that really makes all of our sites unique is we have learned how to design our sites over the past 70 years to make sure that we're not impacting our neighbors. So for example, here, we've positioned our building where in between the source of the sound out of the canopies and our neighbors to the south to kind of act as a sound wall to prevent any of the noise from bleeding onto the different properties.
There's two entrances, correct, Alex? One off of Ruggles and one off of John, right? Milford and John. Milford.
See the arrow over here to the left? That's the exit entrance on Milford Road. This is the daycare right here, and immediately across the street, believe it or not, is going to be another gas station. And that's with full knowledge that Sheets wanted to build here. So in the conversations that I've had, they know it and it doesn't scare them and they're not worried about it. So.
Alex, you did mention at the planning commission that you were putting provisions in if to be in that market of EVs potentially, right? I think that was a question to planning commission.
That is correct. So all of our sites, we do our best to future-proof for the potential of EV. We also have partners with a lot of third-party EV providers like Tesla, EVgo, Iona, and we show them every site that we go to. And if they're interested, we do our best to bring that offer. Nobody is interested currently in bringing EV to this particular parcel, but that's why we future-proof, because in the future, they probably are. And Sheets is also conducting its own research and development of our own EV platforms. So when the time comes that we have that option, we can unilaterally put it in without having to rely on other partners.
Alex, I had specific questions about what, what the runoff requirements for that. They have I believe you have an underground retention system based on the site that holds the water before it exits the site, if I wasn't mistaken, correct?
Correct. So we do have an underground storage detainment system. And we have strict protocols to make sure that no runoff from the canopy that might contain petroleum ever gets into that system to begin with. We have specialized structures inside all of our catch basins that basically act as an oil water separator to make sure that nothing like that ever gets into the system to begin with. But then also on top of that, we have additional water quality structures that are just an added layer of protection.
Do you have, Rick, do you have the overhead of it, the main site plan? Because there was some questions brought up about water and safety and things like that. And the site right now, basically across from Ruggles Street, there was some water main probably like 6-7 years ago, I think. Beth, how long ago do you think it was brought across 59? So there is water main right now on the other side of Milford Road. And part of this project is contingent on them boring under Milford Road and bringing water down Ruggles Street, where you can see it in the bottom of the screen there. And part of their agreement with the school district was that they brought that water main across Ruggles Street. So obviously there's a fire hydrant that I saw on the original set of plans, basically right about in the middle of Ruggles Street, where those three trees are.
Fire hydrant, right?
Yep.
Here.
And they're also going to be part of this project for the partnership with the school for the septic usages. They're going to be bringing that water main all the way over to the current elementary school off of Livingston Road. So that helps our community huge, because that school's on a well right now. So that brings a water main that the school district and everybody really can't afford to do over to another municipal building. But the main point of that is that they're going to have a fire hydrant there, which is one of the only stations in Highland, I think, might be the only station that has water for fire service like that also.
Enter either go down the road or go down.
Yeah, this is west and this is John. So if you're heading east on M59, you're more likely to come in this direction. And I think if you do you need this picture anymore, Grant?
No, thank you.
Okay, let me bring the images back up. Oh, shoot, what are they doing? There they are. So what happens is if you notice right here, the visual is open. So when you're coming down M59, you're looking right at the sheets and you can tell that that's the entrance. There's their marker sign. There's no trees that are blocking the visibility of it, so that there's a clean visual in. So if you're heading eastbound, you're going to come in here. If you miss it, you're going to run over those things. And then you're going to come down and you can come back in over off of Milford Road.
I'm going to try to get out on Milford Road. Turn left and go back on.
Yeah.
Was brought up earlier about the high flow of traffic.
Right. Okay, so the answer to that question is, as I said earlier, most people learn the pathway and it's self-select. But you would probably pretty quickly, if you wanted to head east on 59, you would go back out the way you came in onto John Street and have direct access to M59. You wouldn't have to deal with the traffic light over here on Milford Road at all. Yeah, well, there will be times you can, because I mean, Ruggles Street there, you can do it, but it's not, I mean, is this perfect? But
Gone back and forth with Virginia, but I think, from Pennsylvania, somebody brought up that we're all on Pennsylvania Turnpike, and it's chaos, because there's a lot of, there's a lot of traffic, you know, facilities. And I'm looking at it in terms of what's going to happen, people coming out, trying to get on the time. Road.
There's been a traffic study done on this. So they had a professional traffic study done. It was supplied to the planning commission. And their findings with the traffic study, which was a long traffic study, but I did read through it, only had to do with the intersection at Milford Road and 59. Going eastbound on 59, if you were to try to turn north, we have that weird deal where you can make a left and get in that little center section. But that doesn't have much to do with this. Alex, I did have a question about, I did some research in the interim for this about the tanks, and I read quite a bit about it. And it had some information that said in 2016 that it was changed to where everybody had to put double wall tanks in and sensors and things like that. What about the current stations? I mean, not that this maybe would pertain to a whole lot, but I find it pertinent to my knowledge. The current stations that are around, do those have double wall tanks? Is there a requirement for them to have double wall tanks? Is there an amount of time that has to be changed out or something like that?
I do not have the information on the stations that are immediately surrounding your area to be able to answer whether they have single, double wall tanks. Typically, when regulations are changed, wherever you're at, you are grandfathered in. So if station XYZ had a single wall tank, odds are they probably still have a single wall tank. Within Sheets, all of ours are double and double wall tanks. We have stainless steel fittings. I can get into the technicals all day long about that, but we far exceed the requirements of the state of Michigan and every state that we operate in when it comes to the design of our fueling system.
Yeah, that sounds concurrent with it. With what I was getting at is the newer stations are required to have a higher standard of containment and monitoring in comparison to some of the older stations. And that's what I had read, that basically until they have a problem with the tank or the linings failing, that they don't have to replace the tank. So I think it is a positive that we have a station, that we could have a station potentially that has the best containment environmental for Highland. Yes, sir, Bruce. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
What's your coming and going? Don't we have any say, let's make it the Sheets requirement and model of product plan to say all Sheets need to be 24/7.
He's only supposed to respond to the board. So that's why he's not trying to be rude to you. He's done this quite a few times. So typically when we close public comment, I think the board's taking questions because they understand that that a lot of people didn't get the memo or whatever for the last public hearing.
Well, I'll make an expression on it. There's a lot of people who live in the community that don't work on a daylight basis. They work on a nighttime basis. And why do they not have an opportunity to have a place to go to maybe grab something to eat? And we've got police officers that work around the clock and they very much would like to probably have a place to go. How much better could you have than a police station, 900 feet away from less than 900 feet away from the facility? But the other side of it is all the people that are saying stuff about 24 hours are in bed. So how does that affect you? How does that make you feel? Well, why do you think that makes more crime? I would like to, here's what I thought about. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me make a statement that's probably going to baffle a lot of you. There's a lot of crime in your own neighborhoods that we're not addressing, that you maybe not even realizing is happening. There's crimes happening all over the community. This is not a perfect society here or anywhere in the state of Michigan. There's crimes that happen not just at a 24-hour Sheetz. And, so it's kind of making a statement, well, yeah, Highland's riddled with people that are going to just hang there. I don't think that's going to be a scenario in this case. Does it happen? It can. Will it? Possibly will. But we have crimes everywhere here. And it's not just there. There's trailer parks, there's houses, there's domestic, there's murders, there's. Because most of the people go to bed at 9:30 at night. Most of the people. So, okay, we gotta move on. Say what?
Well,
No.
there was a comment that got distributed. And obviously I think we all have to take some of that with a grain of salt because there's lobbyist groups for everything, right? And there was something distributed about some limitations on hours. And I think we have to take into account when the planning commission takes into account a special use we have to take into account the area it's going in. So, if it's in a residential area, not a main corridor and things like that, then we do take a lot more weight to those sort of things about how much traffic is coming down that road or that area or that business during those times of the day, and there's appropriate areas for places to be. Sometimes it's not even all night. Sometimes it's, do you really want people driving by? If it's a neighborhood and it's really close area and it's kind of a stretch for the usage, then we reduce the hours that person could operate, Mm-hmm.
When it comes to having, considering traffic, while I look at this map, I want to know what happens with the in and out section going onto John Street when there is a drop-off pickup for.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to answer that, and then that's the last conversation from the crowd. The school's going to have to modify its program. Well, no, they need to anyways, because what happens is, let me finish. That road gets blocked up by people driving the kids to school in the morning. It's a hazard because they're blocking half the road off. So the school needs to address that. Now, they did address it by moving the driveway when we built the new town hall, but they didn't anticipate that they'd have that many people lining up on the road. So if Sheetz goes in, and even if it doesn't go in, that's a conversation I've already had with the school. They're going to have to modify them. I'm not gonna comment about that. We have to finish this process.
How can you make this station clear? And then first, how much do you, how cheap will affect? How many, okay, we're talking about price. So, what is that?
Mr. Supervisor, I think it's, excuse me. Mr. Supervisor, I think it's important to understand that if they were coming here today to this board to ask to put in a convenience store 3 times that size, we would not be here because they would be building it without any approval from us. Because they're able to use this, they're able to have those 2 driveways, they're able to use their piece of property. The only reason they're here is for the special use of the addition of the gas station portion of this project. So if they wanted to build any type of usage there, it's their right to build things that are allowed. The only reason we're here is the gas station portion of this. So if they could have much more traffic under some other usages potentially, the building could be much larger. There could be more traffic than if certain things go in there, especially during certain times of the day. So, you know, you have to weigh it against, I know no one wants to, you know, there's a potential thought in Highland for a long time. They don't want to see anything or, you know, stay rural, but you have to weigh it against consequences of what else could go there. So if they decide, if we said, no, you can't put a gas station there, they can come in tomorrow with a site plan with a building that's much larger, maybe more intensive of a use. And there's no approval process for that, or special use approval, I should say. For that.
There's another thing to ask yourself. Name an empty gas station. 2, you know, 1 on every corner. Name an empty gas station, even here in Highland. And they're going to put one in there. Well, it might be crazy, but the point being that whoever decides they want to build a gas station, that's their money and it's their choice to go in and compete with each other. And what happens in any business, competition, more often than not, causes people to up their game and play the game where you do your own services and you do your own businesses. We got a mobile station over here, and I know the gentleman's nervous about that. But you know what? He's on the other side of the road. He's got a whole different traffic pattern. He keeps the place spotless. He serves food, all the same things that Sheets does, and he's doing it right over there. And he's in a different spot, and he'll survive because for some reason, gas stations always have business. Unless you are somebody who just totally destroys your own business by not serving your customers, you want people to repeat. And you can do that in any one of these businesses. You get to know an individual person and you'll go there. Ace Party Store, you have a clientele. They love you. They're going to continue to go to you because that's what they want to do. Now, when somebody else moves off to another, I mean, restaurants, you know, I'm a Duke's person. I go to Duke's all the time. There's restaurants all over the place. They don't like Duke's, so I go to Duke's. It's not the best ambiance or any of that stuff, but you get in a routine of the people that you like to deal with. You'll continue to deal with them. And yeah, you know, it's one of those things where you hate to have competition come in when you are in business for yourself. But what you sometimes have to do is suck it up and reinvent. And more often than not, if you reinvent, you'll be successful. If you choose not to reinvent, you'll go out the door because you're not going to make it. And that's just the way it happens.
Alex, there was some questions. We briefly got into the portion of alcohol sales there, but could you explain to us a little more about what type of alcohol you would sell? Because I have some interest in that. I don't drink, but not in that interest. But what type of alcohol you would sell, and do you have something like that in place, or what's most of your locations?
So in the state of Michigan, we are typically pursuing beer, wine, and liquor. If the appropriate license is available, if we meet all the criteria, and one of those is you're only allowed to sell during certain hours, so it's not a 24-hour thing.
Okay. Can't hear you. Once again, I can't hear what you're saying. Okay, we're gonna have to, we gotta continue this because we're going into the wee hours and it is the board's time now. We did give a lot of time for more than most people would ever give for
Supervisor Hamel, can I speak?
yes, you may.
I would like to point out some of the positive things about this new development. They're eliminating 2 driveways on M59. They're adding greenway along M59 that we do not currently have, and also along Ruggles and John. And I do have to say that I've been on the Downtown Development Authority for 5 years, and small businesses are the heart of Highland Township. And I make it a point to shop at all of our small businesses. And it's not easy, but it's a commitment that I make to Highland. And finally, I want to thank all of you for coming out, because if you don't come out and let us know how you feel, then we don't know how you feel. Thank you.
Okay, Alex, you have anything else you want to?
Unless the board has any further questions for me, I'm all set.
I think we have. Apparently excited. You have one, Tammy?
My comment, I want to talk about the 24-hour business. This would not be our first 24-hour business that we've had in Highland. And I don't recall a great deal of crime at McDonald's or 7-Eleven when they were 24 hours. I personally have had needs in the middle of the night, and I had to drive all the way down to Meyer when I wasn't feeling good because there was nothing in Highland to take care of what I needed. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. M59 is what it was made for gas stations. You know, we're a major thoroughfare. And most of the people who go to Sheets will be driving through Highland and actually spending some money here instead of just skipping through town. And that will help our town and greatly. I don't think it will hurt necessarily a small party store that's on Milford Road. I think most of the people who are going to shop at Sheets are just driving down M59 and headed to other places. I personally support local businesses as well, and I go to the ones who provide a personalized service. And I think will keep the local shoppers at the local businesses.
Yes, sir. We'll let you talk. That wasn't what she was saying. It's a gas station in a space that is actually zoned for that. And you talk about Cobblestone and Timber Ridge, and those have setbacks that exceed 300 feet. And that's the scenic corridor I was telling you about. That's what the planning commission did. They took pieces of property. That land that you're talking about was supposed to be Oakland County's next dump. And so thank you for being a participant in purchasing that, but it was specifically done to maintain that scenic corridor. And we've worked extremely hard, not just myself, but the planning commission and ZBA and everybody else to see that we don't add any more commercial space. And this is a piece that's been here since day one. I mean, there was gas stations right there before. And I mean, I can't tell you how many gas stations have been in Highland. that right there on three corners were gas stations, and just next to the bridge was a gas station. And then we had the mobile station here in town, and kitty corner from that was another gas pump. There are so many gas pumps that were in Highland. Actually, Jayden's store there, gas pumps. So they've been around forever, and they always seem to survive and thrive in different ways, and depends on who owns it and so on and so forth. So we need to move on. Any others? What?
It's like 1,000 feet.
It's 1,000 feet.
All right, board members.
Thank you.
So you know, a lot of concern about the continued eyesore of the old lumberyard, which makes sense. The good news is this presentation, based on the model, does clean that up pretty good. I think by having a independently owned entity that seems to be strong, obviously can make sure they take care of the property better than maybe some smaller independent fuel station. So I'm kind of thinking that might be a better approach. Having entrances not off of 59 directly makes sense. I do agree with the problem has to be rectified with as far as the school traffic. That is an issue. Other stations, I believe I live off Hickory Ridge, so BP is my station because I go there because I go by that all the time. So that's my comments.
What's that? That Alex? Yes, do you sell marijuana?
No, we do not.
No, they don't.
Alex, when we talked before, I think that you had said there was a lot of hurdles to go over. I mean, that's the other part that people have to understand on the planning commission in approvals like this. There's like a process that has to happen with this, right? I mean, there's not just Highland that's involved, right? They go to the plant, you got to get engineers involved. The engineers draw it. Goes to the planning commission. The planning commission gives their nod. It goes to the township board. Before they even go start seeking permits from the county, Eagle, Oakland County, the state of Michigan, like building permits, all kinds of stuff. So I think you gave us some sort of timeline though, Alex. Did you have an idea of what time that would be?
Believe the question you're referring to is how long it would take us
Yes.
to construct,
Mhm.
not how long it'll take us to permit the proposed sheets. That's a lot harder question to answer, but it's a long time. To give a really good example, the water main that we are proposing, so that'll have to go through the township engineers for approval. It'll then have to go to the county engineers for approval, and then it'll have to go to the state for approval. And recently, through the state review process that we've seen in other locations, that review itself is 4 to 6 months just for that one permit.
So once you would get permits, I think, what would your estimated timeline of building be?
After we get permits, it typically takes us 30 to 60 days to go through all the bonding and insurance and all that type of stuff, hire contractors. But to build it, it'll be anywhere between let's say 6 and 8 month process.
I do want to mention too that I did some investigation in some other areas, and actually, like, believe it or not, the township of Milford has one gas station approved and another one on the table. So I don't know why the gas stations are so hot. I have to imagine there's some money in it at the moment. And there's obviously free enterprise taking place and people are going after it. But it's not just Highland, I guess is what I'm saying. There's plenty of other communities where this is the thing. People are wanting to build gas stations, and it's a free enterprise. They want to make some money.
An example on that is the two gas stations he's talking about. If you're familiar with Milford Road, south of Milford, right next door to Baker's is Holden's. They're already starting. They're putting in a gas station. And right across the street from that where the Dairy Queen is, Mug and Bob's. So tell me what there is with gas stations. And I would much prefer to see this gas station than Mug and Bob's. And pretty much any others. But we'll digress.
Daycare. I see where you have open air trash right there on Milford Road, right across from the daycare. Less trash is gonna be for convenience store or restaurant. Yeah. There's residents right there and daycare. That's where you may put that.
And what's your fear of that?
That's a.
Well, I think that's. Not if they do their job and empty their trash. So. Depends on the owners, I guess. So. Thanks for the information though. Okay. Next step.
Legal counsel regarding decisions to be made as far as our direction. Or
Our direction
liabilities and lawsuits, etc.
What we have is we have three options. Motion to approve, motion to postpone, or motion to deny. And based on the way our ordinance is written, and Joellen, correct me if I'm wrong here. If this meets all of the 7 items from section 603 review procedures, which Alex did go through and we all have copies of. And I think we've all done our homework. If you paid attention to what each one of those were, and including our outside consultants, we shall be required to vote in favor. Yeah, turn the lights up, somebody. Jamie, you want to turn the lights up for me, please? Oh, somebody's got it. Get ready. There we go. Yeah. So that's where we're at. And I don't know whether there's any other legal stuff that.
Joellen Shortley, Assistant.
Put it right up to you.
Joellen Shortley, Assistant Township Attorney. You are correct, Supervisor, that your section 6.03 has these 7 criteria with shalls, have criteria with the word shall in it. So if you, for instance, in the first one say shall be designed located, if you're finding that it has that, then that's, you've met that criteria. So if you find that all those criteria are met, then you shall approve. If you don't find that the criteria, one or more of the criteria are met, then you do not approve.
Right. So if you go through these things, and you can look at them now, you might as well look them over again. But if you find, and basically, essentially what it is the planning commission goes through, addresses these issues, determines that they appear to meet the requirements. Our CWA, which is Carlisle Wortman and Associates, is our outside consultant planner. They also address it separately so that they're not in the same room or team. And then they go through and they identify, does it meet the standards for special land use? And in this scenario, in my opinion, I've been through it. I've looked at it. I asked the same questions, and I think that our consultants and planning commission have done their job, and I agree with the findings. And so I'm going to take the jump, and I'm going to make motion to because of the findings, I'm going to make the motion to approve special land use URSA 24-06 for a gas station convenience store with drive-through for the vacant parcels 1-22-352-05, 006, 010, and 011 based on the site plan prepared by Kimley Horn of Michigan, Inc., dated December 18th, 2024, and architectural plans prepared by Sheets Incorporated, update December 19th, 2024, and further based on the findings of the Planning Commission on January 23rd, 2025, the recommendations of Carlisle Wortman, and further based on the board's own findings that the proposed plan conforms with the requirement standards of the approval under section 6.03H of the zoning ordinance and attaching the separate document titled Sheets URSA 24-06 Standards for Special Land Use, which defines each of the 7 articles that we're to address. Does that work?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so that was a motion.
A second.
Okay. We did all the discussion, but you still can discuss.
I had wanted to make one more comment before you went to the motion. I would like the audience to know that we have an exceptional planning commission, and they've worked really hard to present us good information. They don't take anything for granted. They work really hard at what they do. So I have a lot of trust in their performance and their ethics. So thank you for being on the planning commission.
Any other comments? All right, vote please.
Ms. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Bowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes, I'm not really totally liking many gas stations, but in this case, I think the presentation should be adequate, should be an exception for making our township look much better, make the improvement on the property. So I support.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Mr. Sharlick,
Charlie, yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
All right. Thank you, Alex. And once again, thank you for all that showed up. I know there's some disappointed people here tonight, but that's how we have to process it. All right. Okay, 5-minute break.
The approval you just gave was strictly for the one on Milford Road.
Yes. Now that's next. So next one on the docket here. So. Let's see here. Where's my Zoom? Back in action. We're moving on to the next item, which is another gas station. This is URSA. What does that stand for? Oh, geez. That'd be terrible in the military, that's for sure. Special approval of land use for gas station vacant northeast corner of North Milford and East Wardlow, PIN number 11-15-326-017, applicant Sam Sarmed Ralph, property owner, Rima Properties LLC. Grant, you want to go through these 7 items?
The planning commission reviewed this. It was quite a while ago, so it's not as fresh in my memory. But was a lot of the same questions asked, and you have to review these, and obviously there's a scale of reviewing it, and everybody's opinion is going to come off different. But the main thing that comes to mind for me, or makes sense in my mind when I'm reviewing it, to compare it to other potential land uses that could go on that property by right, meaning anything that what we're approving tonight is the special land use. So in that zoning, or in any zoning in Highland for that matter, it has to be specific zonings. It can't be like residential or something, but in the zoning that he has, a gas station is a special land use. So he has to get approval to do the gas station portion. If he didn't want to do the gas station and he wanted to be a Dunkin' Donuts or whatever he a convenience store, then he would need no special use, the gas station portion alone. So what that brings me to is, in my thought process, comparing it to other usages and specifically comparing it to if that is going to be more intense or, you know, more harmful to the area than some of the other land uses. And, you know, he could build a laundromat there. He could build a vape shop there. He could build, you know, there's tons of usages in that zoning that could go there by right without asking any permission tonight. So the gas station, for whatever reason, is a special use in that area. And I know that there has been some worries about the environmental side of it. The one gentleman mentioned that he worked for Larson Company, and I built Bruce's house, actually, Bruce Larson. So I talked to him specifically about this just last week, about some of those environmental concerns and some of the requirements and some of the wells in the area and some things like that. And obviously nothing is ever perfect. But he did do quite a bit to, you know, inform me on what they required with the double wall tanks and the leak detectors and the process that they have to go through with the state of Michigan and Eagle and everything like that. So in my understanding for this, you know, the usage and the traffic and all those other things are not more intensive than some of the other land uses that could go on this property by right. So I think it meets all these. Now, obviously, the health and public safety, that applies to every area, you know, and every piece of property that's in Highland, not just this piece of property, you know. So it has a railroad behind it. That was an important portion for the planning commission, that we found that with the railroad, it kind of gave a separation to some adjacent lands. And obviously a railroad's pretty intensive use itself. So there was nothing in here. The planning commission did have a little bit more of a split vote. We did ask this applicant to give some concessions and speak about his specific hours of operation. And like we had talked about in the previous section, we did not feel that some certain hours were, you know, needed to be operated in this area. Even though the 7-Eleven is 24 hours next to it, the applicant was willing to make a concession on the hours, which is kind of what we do. We try to polish it as much as we can and get what we can out of it. Even if we do feel it meets, we try to work with the applicant and try to get them to get the best deal we can for the community. And he was willing to, Beth, what was the hours? Do you know what the hours were that he, or it was
5 a.m. to midnight.
5 to midnight. So we did, even though 7-Eleven is 24 hours right now, we did limit that in hours, which he agreed to as part of the deal. So other than that, which we thought was a help, we didn't find against it, and most of the planning commission supported it.
You might want to turn to the document that is on your desk, that, because it's kind of foggy in planning commission memory. It's called Standards for Special Land Use, REMA URSA 2406. And that goes through each of the 7 standards. And I paraphrased in shorter phrasing what the Carlisle Wortman report found and what the planning commission discussion was. So for instance, in the first finding, which is that all special land uses should be designed, located, planned, and operated so that the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected. Carlisle Wortman noted that the standard is met if the intensity is consistent with neighborhood commercial, basically. A commercial that's serving the residential neighbors. And the planning commission's discussion about this was a modern gas station is designed to the current environmental standards, so it protects itself, the health, safety, and welfare through the state standards. And they asked to limit the hours with the thought that then it's truly serving the neighborhood and you're not drawing traffic from other parts of the township to this spot because it's the only place you can get a dozen eggs at 2 a.m. So that was kind of the thought process in limiting the hours of operation. So if anybody has any other thoughts about whether it's properly designed and located so that public health, safety, and welfare are protected, that's where that finding is. Then the next finding required is that all special land uses should be compatible and harmonious with the surrounding land uses, taking into consideration the size, location, and character of the proposed special land use within the context of surrounding land uses in the master plan. And furthermore, the proposed special land use shall not cause substantial injury to the value of other property in the area where it's located. And again, Carlisle Wharton said that the standard can be met, but you have to look at the intent statement for the C1 zoning, which is that it's intended to serve the residential area. And they had a debate at the planning commission about what is the character of Milford Road. And for instance, Commissioner Smith brought up all the history of the different businesses that are up and down that stretch of road, including the concrete plant, the old meat plant, the lumber
Iverson's.
companies there. There's a number.
Glass company, Midwest Glass is right across the street.
So it's acknowledged that, there was some room for debate there, but the general consensus kind of landed that this is not a residential corridor. It's adjacent to a residential corridor. So the land use, as long as the intensity of the gas station wasn't like a truck stop, that it actually was a local gas station, was appropriate. So then you look at number 3, is it in conformance with the master plan designation? Carlisle Wharton again talked about what the intensity is, and you'll see there's 5 standards there for what to consider when you're looking at the intensity. And again, the planning commission found that the site did meet the character of the area and met the intent of the master plan. There was a specific thought that, this is going to freshen up the corridor and encourage other property owners to invest in their properties, that the gas station's primarily going to serve the local neighborhoods and the people passing by on Milford Road anyway, and that if we restricted the hours, it would keep the traffic to the local neighborhood. For the 4th standard, it talks basically about traffic, and the planning consultant deferred that to staff and engineering. So I made some phone contacts with RCOC, to their traffic engineer, to talk through this site with them. Basically, a small gas station is going to generate about 100 peak hour trips, which is below the threshold where most communities even require a traffic study. He hasn't provided a traffic study. The road commission's not going to require a traffic study. They did say they're going to put some limits on his turning movements in and out of the site, particularly from Wardlow Road. And then we also talked to the fire marshal about the traffic patterns, and especially the concern about, what happens if they respond to an incident at this site. And I think one gentleman mentioned that there's, 2 driveways, but they're within 300 feet of each other and they're still close to the gas station. The fire marshal's not concerned. He thinks that they can come up with a operational plan, for that site. I don't know if Nick has anything more he wants to add to that. The fifth standard talks about all special land uses designed, constructed, and operated in a manner that prevents detrimental impacts to surrounding properties such as noise, dust, fumes, smoke, air, water, odor, light, and or vibration. The special land use should be designed, constructed, and operated in a manner that does not detract from these aesthetics. And the planner's report found that the standard can be met. They suggested you look carefully at the landscaping screens. And they also noted that there's going to be multiple agencies involved in the review. And the planning commission was satisfied that the standard is met and that our ordinance standards are strong enough that we're going to get a proper dark sky lighting and appropriate landscaping. There's some debate about whether this is an appropriate site for a drive-through window and whether the east elevation of the building is the right place for a drive-through window, but it's not part of this application, so it's not really relevant to the discussion. Then the sixth standard talks about unreasonable burdens on the capacity of public services or facilities. And again, the planners deferred to staff and engineering. And what the planning commission found was, they're going to be served by their own septic and well. If a problem were to arise, there is water main within a quarter mile of the site, and it could be extended up there. And they suggested that the township explore whether additional environmental liability insurance might be available from the applicant so that could offset those costs if the water main were ever have to be extended for any reason. And the seventh standard is just the same as we just discussed with sheets. There just isn't in anything in chapter 10 requiring you to look at anything special on that. So as you form your decision making, those are the standards, and there's an example of how you would apply them to this site or any other site.
Beth, we didn't approve a site plan for this, right? This was just a special use, right?
Right. All he submitted at this point is a conceptual site plan, which is tied to the approval. But he owes us a reasonable site plan and then the final site engineering. So he'd be back to the planning commission a couple times for the site plan.
The other thing that I wanted to make sure that got added to this in our thought process was tying to the special land use, the applicant's promise to hook to water main if the water main did go by. So even if nothing ever happened, that they would agree to hook to water main if it ever went by there in the future. That would be part of the special land use, in my opinion.
Would that improve the application, you think?
I think it would, because if the township ever decides to drag water that way, if they put the money into the well, they need to understand that we would want them to connect to it as well to help the cost of the water main, It may never happen, but it may. And I think tying that to the special land use would be beneficial to the community.
Do you have a question? Jeff?
I don't remember we talked about tying the water if there's any problem, but I agree to provide extra insurance if there's anything happens. But tying the water probably costs $500,000 million.
No, not tying to it. What I'm saying is if the township ever brings water up Milford Road.
Yes.
Could never happen, could be 50 years from now. That you would agree to hook to it if somebody else brought it.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, definitely.
Did you, Sam, while you're up here, did you, that was one thought that I actually had. There's all these environmental requirements and stuff like that, and you're required by law to hold a certain amount of insurance to to, if there something ever was to happen. Now, what I asked was to try to make more people, easy about what's going on and the cost and factor. Did you look at what insurances would be? Would you be willing to carry a little more insurance because of the location this is?
I mean, by law, I have to carry certain amount of insurance, but any extra, not every insurance company will agree to provide me with extra insurance. But whatever is required by the state, and you know how the state works, they're gonna go through a lot of steps. I'm gonna, of course, provide all the insurance, and if I could get some extra insurance, I will. But usually with the insurance company, they don't provide anything over what they suggest, what they give you.
That was a good political answer.
What was that?
I said that was a good political answer.
I mean, you know the insurance companies.
I understand.
But if I could get extra, I have no problem.
They do have a pretty robust, from what I understand, it's pretty robust, the amount of insurance that
It would make sense if they're willing to cover what the state offers, that the township may say we have a requirement, which would make it just as binding.
Well, that requirement, like same thing, like you guys agreed on sheet with the insurance and same thing, I'm gonna agree, same policies with the insurance you guys asked for and the state requirement, I'm willing to provide that. I have to.
It wasn't, it was just spitballing. It was a thought process, I mean,
Sure.
If he's willing, I mean, it's like I said, you try to polish it, you try to do some
Try to
deal
get
cut and get
everything
the
in.
best deal you can,
I mean, I told you the hours is fine, 5 to 12, which is, I don't mind it. I want 5 to 12. So that's one thing. And concerning regarding the traffic is not a lot of traffic in that corner comparing to Milford and M59, like triple the traffic. And it's the same thing, one lane road. So I don't think we have any issue with the traffic.
Well, like I said, the way I look at these applications from the planning commission, and now that I'm on the board, I look at it as what else could be there, and would that cause? The planning commission's thought on it was, a gas station is, no one's going to drive up Milford Road to go to a gas station. And so our thought process was, with traffic and a concern, if there was another business that was more of a destination style business, it could potentially bring more traffic there, because they would be going there not on their way by or to get gas. They'd be going there as a business location, even if it was a doctor's office or something like that.
Imagine if you open for a Taco Bell, what kind of traffic you're gonna get there?
Mm-hmm.
My original concerns were with the traffic in the intersection. I'm already dissatisfied with that intersection. I drive through there a couple dozen times a week. And I have had several discussions with our planner about communicating our desire to Oakland County Road Commission. It needs some upgrading, the intersection, especially if we have another business there drawing, a decent amount of traffic. But one of the things I need to realize, people, I think in the previous discussion, you really never have to turn left out onto a road. I almost never do on Milford Road. I can go to Duke's for dinner and I need to go north. I almost always turn right because traffic through there is not great. Turn right, go down, turn around, go back. If the traffic isn't conducive to turning left, then don't do it.
I mean, the thing is, you guys are worried about the traffic. The traffic people is not gonna come, especially for the gas station, to drive there to get the gas station. It's not a party place. It's not gonna be a hub. It's not a 24 hours. Usually 24 hours bring a lot of people from different cities, a lot of issues. I've seen it with 7-Eleven. I'm trying to convince 7-Eleven to close at 12, but it's in a contract. They'll charge me another 20% on top of the 54%. So the traffic is not gonna increase. People, when they go to work or they come home, they're gonna drive by the gas station. If they want to get the gas, they'll drive there. So that's not a concern.
So like I said, I mean, it's about an intensity. I think that's the overall idea, right? What is the overall intensity? How is it going to impact the community? And any other business that would go there, I think, would have a similar intensity to that as a gas station. If it was going to be any other convenience store, if he decided he was just gonna build another convenience store across the street, it would be the same amount of traffic.
Okay, so we've discussed the 7 points for standards for special land use.
So Tammy, the approval by the Oakland County Road Commission of the final site plan, is that enough? Because that's one of the conditions the planning commission put on it. Number 5, approval of the Oakland County Road Commission of the final site plan.
Yes. Well, and we don't know what they're gonna require until they do. And what we have to make our decision today. But they're the road engineers. I'm not a road engineer. So I
We
would
just-
like to see improvements. That's all I can do is make that known.
So this motion does include, I guess I'll go ahead and make the motion unless you guys, somebody else wants to do it, but. Okay, well, let me start this and then we'll get. So this is based on the term shall because it met the requirements. Motion to approve special land use URSA 2402 for a gas station convenience store at the northeast corner of North Milford Road and East Wardlow Road, parcel 11-15-326-017, based on a conceptual site plan prepared by Turk Architects dated January 15th, 2024, subject to conditions included in the motion of recommendation for approval by the Planning Commission on April 4th, 2024, the recommendations of Carlisle Wortman, and further based on the board's finding that the proposed plan conforms with the required standards of approval under section 603H of the zoning ordinance, subject to the following conditions. 1, hours of operation, the gas station use are limited to 5 a.m. to 12 midnight. 2, the owner operator of the gas station provides proof and amount of pollution liability coverage to the township's staff on an annual basis. 3, an agreement between the applicant and the township to be approved by the township attorney be entered into that specifies the multiple step site plan process to be followed from preliminary site plan to tentative approvals from all approving agencies prior to final site plan approval. This is what we talked about, the DEQ and Eagle and whoever. And so the final site plan approval by the Planning Commission, number 4, and number 5, approval by the Oakland County Road Commission of the final site plan. 6, approval by the fire chief of the final site plan. 7, approval of the township engineer of the final site plan, and approval of the development agreement by the township attorney. And Grant, you had something else to add there?
And the applicant agrees to connect to water main if it ever goes by. Well, but what would be the right wording, Beth? Goes by his right of way? If it comes within, say, 300 feet of his right of way or something like that? Okay.
Okay, that'll be number 9. Any other things the board would like to add to that? Right now, I think that for the public's purposes, there's a whole bunch of steps that still have to be accomplished before it actually can happen. This is just a preliminary component of it. It says, yes, you can move forward, but all these steps have to be followed. If you don't make them, then it's drop back and start some other process. So that's the motion. And to include the form, the REMA URSA 24-06 standards for special land use produced by the our planning department, that includes the statements of rationale for each of the 7 steps for standard approval, special use approval. Okay, that was it. That's it.
Support, how?
Okay, moved and supported. Any other discussion? Sure.
It runs with the land, but it's tied to that concept site plan, so they couldn't scratch the plan and come back with a different layout. It's this concept.
We understood that, yeah. All right, vote please.
Just to follow up on that, so this is going to be a general overall purpose versus this specific plan. I mean, going back to the question that was answered, right now this is being built around a specific person, specific entity. So I believe that if we vote on this, it's just for one purpose.
Well, specific plan, yeah.
Yes, you want
Applicant.
to say that again?
So the approval runs with the land, but it's tied to that layout. And so a different developer couldn't come in and do a bait and switch and make a bigger gas station or a different gas station layout, or he'd be tied to that plan. If he significantly changed anything in the plan, he starts from scratch.
Yes.
All right, Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howell votes yes.
Mr. Charlotte,
Charlotte, yes.
Miss Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Emily, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so no more gas stations, please. No more gas stations. Pardon me? Tell you what, I'll do absolutely everything I can to not have another gas station in Highland Township. Okay, we gotta move on. Thanks everybody for your input. Probably didn't sound like it was valuable, but it was valuable. It's very important to us. Okay, where are we at here? Too much paper. All right, next item, ambulance purchase. Where did that one go? Here, I got something here, I guess.
Rick, just as a heads up, your main computer camera pooped out a little while ago. So there's only you on the screen. There's not the overhead board view.
Yeah, it's covered up with stuff.
Okay, just mention it.
Oh, I don't know where it went. Oh, well, as long as we record it. Okay. Chief?
Right. So back in March, we approved the purchasing of moving forward to get 3 ambulances. The first one, you guys have already approved the pricing of everything like that. I just finally got the pricing back for number 2 and number 3 to lock them in on prices so they don't continue to increase as the increases happen over every year. So I'm just presenting the prices to you guys so you guys know what they are. And hopefully your approval to tell them we're good with that and they're moving forward. It's basically, we planned out the next 3. So we're getting 1 in 2025, which is this year. Come toward the end of the year, it'll be ready. That was where we slipped into where somebody canceled their slot and we got the chance to take over their slot. The nice thing is that they're actually going to review the build process and not build it to what it was set for originally. They're going to build it to our build. So that's awesome. So all 3 ambulances will match. But then the next 2 will come, one will come toward the end of 27 and then the beginning of 28. So it's a different budget year. But they are 3 years out under ambulances right now. So if we don't lock in and get them in there, then we got to turn around and wait another 3 years to lock in, unless we can find like another spot where somebody pulled out and canceled. So everything will be in the budget years for those years to pay for them out of capital improvement funds. Things like that, not asking for any funds, anything like that. It just got the prices in, wanted to let you guys know what the exact price would be for each ambulance and how much it'll end up costing.
So one payment in 2025 and then one in 2027. So you're budgeted for 25 already.
25 is already budgeted and good to go. We've already paid the down payment for that.
Yeah.
Luckily with the company we've been using to purchase ambulance through and build them and everything, they actually merged with another, they're a Braun dealer, but the dealer actually merged with another company. And that company does not require the down payment anymore, so it won't be any cost until the ambulance actually comes in. So.
Excuse me, could I?
I'm in space out mode here.
I just would recommend that you make the approval contingent on township attorney being able to review terms and conditions. I didn't see any agreement in there, so if we could
I'm not
later
hearing
review
either, so.
a contract, I don't know if you have that already, but I just didn't see.
Joellen, you got to get that mic.
Sorry, I didn't see any terms and conditions for the purchase, so if you could make it.
So that's already been reviewed. Correct.
The contract was already reviewed.
Yep, so he's just letting us know. He's not asking for a motion here. He's just letting
This
us.
is just an.
You guys have already approved the purchasing process and all that stuff through all of them.
Thank you.
It's just we finally have the prices locked in.
Okay. All right. That was easy. That was too easy. All right, Nick, we're done. We're done with you, Nick. We're done.
So you're saying you got the prices locked in? Did we approve purchase of them without?
You guys approved to moving forward to ordering them and with the same specs and through the whole thing.
And now we know the price.
Now we know the price. So I would actually, if you guys could do a
Yeah.
approval of that price, that makes sure you guys, it shows you guys are a commitment of the ambulance.
Yeah, I think that's.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, next item.
Let's make a motion. Yes.
Oh, okay, somebody make a motion now.
I move to approve the cost for ambulance 2 and 3 to be a total of $771,976, which is $385,988 each unit. This cost will be out of a capital fund, one for each budget year, 2025 and 2027. With the
27 and 28.
27 and 28.
25 has already been
It's
approved and
done,
all.
yes. So 27 and 28. Is that where you want me to add with the review that any contracts with the attorney?
Well, are you saying that the contract terms were already approved?
Yes. There's the same contract in terms with all 3 ambulances, so just the prices weren't locked in for the second 2. Yeah, we can have a review it again, not a problem.
And the attorney to review any needed documents.
Support.
Moved and supported, vote please. No, I'm not, I like that enough.
All right, let's vote. Mr. Salvia,
Sylvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Howell votes yes.
Mr. Charlotte,
Charlie, yes.
Ms. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Hamel,
Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
I'm gonna slow it down here a little bit. Okay, the next item is the Downtown Development Authority project. So the Highland Downtown Development Authority in 2013 put in a streetscape that was supposed to include a bridge across the waters of Calisani's Pond. And it never happened. So now the DDA has put out to bid to build that bridge. And so with that comes some additional costs. I should say costs that have gone up significantly. The estimates in 2013 were like $125,000 or $125,000. And that was wood, but today, these items there were bids that we put out and there were 3 quotes and I don't know what I did with the extra.
Supervisor Hamel.
So anyways, you got the numbers there?
Is this for the DDA project, Supervisor?
Yeah.
Oh, I would like to ask the board to recuse me from this as I have a conflict of interest with it.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. So make a motion to recuse Grant Shalleck from discussion on this topic and have him leave the room and go into the board
Do you
room.
need to vote on it or no?
So first of all, it's a motion to abstain. He's requesting to abstain from voting, and he should explain because of the DDA awarding the contract to his company.
I should explain what you said?
You'll explain why you're asking.
The
to be-
DDA, which
Yes.
is who this project for, put out to public bid, project for the boardwalk. And I was asked to bid on it and I bid on it and I was substantially lower than the rest of them, but I can't vote on myself getting a contract. So I don't think that's wise.
Well, if I could just explain, so there's a public act that prohibits a officer employee having an agreement with the entity they serve on. He is not on the DDA, so he really does not have that same conflict. And there is an exception for someone who works less than 25 hours a week. However, we recommended because of any appearance of impropriety or questioning that it would just be better for him to request that so that there's no confusion of the public. So he's not, this is not right now, at least a contract between the township and his company. It's the DDA and his company, but just to have everything clear.
Is there a motion?
There was. Making a motion to
abstain.
To allow Grant Sharlick to recuse himself and abstain from voting. Support. Okay, moved and supported. Well,
Mrs. Lewis?
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe?
so how about yes?
Does he vote on this? Okay. Miss Frederick?
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia?
Sylvia, yes.
Mr. Hamel?
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so on another note, Grant actually bid on that job before he was elected. And so it was real close to the election, and then he won the election and got on the board here. Okay, so next step.
Consider
The project is considered to is going to top out at about $625,000. The DDA in the past, when we did the other streetscape, borrowed a significant amount of money from the township back in 2013 in order to accomplish a project that was much larger than the resources they had on hand. And if they'd used them all up, it would have bankrupted the DDA. So we wouldn't have got the project done. So this is a similar thing. The DDA has enough money to pay for it, but it would literally zero us out. So we, by law, have to maintain a full-time DDA director, and that requires resources, and it wouldn't, if we could, we'd prefer to not have that happen. So what we're looking at is the DDA is committing $375,000, and we're asking, hoping that the township board will, and I'm going to use the term partner, with a commitment of $250,000. Now there's some things that we've discussed with our attorney. There's not a clear path. There is a clear path to loan money, but there's not a clear path to partner with a DDA, which is kind of interesting because we have done some, and I'll discuss that right now. We've done some things today, who looked at that? You looked that up? The Milford DDA partnered with the township on the park. And gave them $1 million+ dollars. What was it? $1.5 million. So we need to look at this thing and say that, of course, they may have been engaging in an illegal activity. We don't know. It could be on who owns the land. I mean, there's a lot of things. So what I'm looking to do here is we'd like a commitment from the township board for $250,000. With that, we'll go a caveat that if we can partner, I'm asking as well as the DDA board to have the township partner with us for that 250. If we can't do that, then we would come up with a lease to do it. So
a loan, or we also talked about the possibility of the township having like a portion of it that it was doing itself as its own improvement, as opposed to an arrangement with through the DDA. So to be creative, we're going to explore.
yeah, well,
different
the point being that we're probably going to have to get creative with the attorneys. I think there's some issues with that from the standpoint that Grant being a board member, trustee, really can't be engaged. He can do his job and complete the job for the DDA because there's an arm's length. He's not on the DDA board. But if he does a project for the township and it's in partnership, which is that weird thing with the township, it could cause a problem.
Well, he'd need to come back. There's certain disclosure requirements. So since he works less than 25 hours a week, there are exceptions that will allow him to provide you with notice, and then you have to notice 7 days before the meeting that this is going to be discussed, so that there are ways to do it. You didn't do that tonight. So if that was decided to be the path, there would be a way to go back and follow those requirements.
Okay, so what I'm proposing here is that what I'd like to do is I guess I can make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that Highland Township make a commitment of $250,000 to be either partnered and paid in full or loaned to the DDA, depending on what the results of research with our attorneys as to what path we can follow. So the preferred method is that we're looking for a partnership. We would prefer not to have to make payments from the DDA. We've done it in the past, it's doable, but the preference is that leaves some resources for the Downtown Development Authority to continue the project, other projects, and complete some things. So motion is the board willing to commit up to $250,000 for this project? Highland Station Boardwalk project.
Support, Mr. Hunt.
Okay, any questions on that?
So we're waiting for the decision whether it's a loan or a partnership. Is that what?
It could be either way.
Okay, all right.
So is there a scenario, if we approve this tonight, the way your motion reads, that somebody else would be deciding whether it gets to be a loan or, township paid out?
I guess the way I intend it to read is that it's preferred that the township pays out 250, but if that's not legally feasible, then it would go out as a loan.
So I am happy to see this project moving forward, and I think the township should participate. I could see the township paying for engineering, but I do have a concern with us as a township paying money to Grant's company. I just think it would make a lot more sense to do a loan for that portion of it. Anything, I don't know how much engineering is. If it's less than 250, then the remainder should be a loan, in my view. So I couldn't support this motion as it's made just now, but I would support other motions that would
Well,
just say it would be a loan.
okay, you don't have to describe that. It's in your vote. You'll tell us whether you are, whether or not, but the intent. So let's have more discussion on this. The intent is to request that the township board approve, and I can only put it this way, a partnership with the DDA in the amount of $250,000. If a partnership is not doable, then it would be a loan to the DDA for $250,000. Terms to be determined with the DDA and our attorneys.
And the final approval back here at the board.
Pardon me?
Would there be a final approval?
Yeah, we'd have to come back here.
Here to the board.
The thing is we just need to know that that money is going to be set aside. The money doesn't have to be paid out tomorrow.
Okay, does the partnership require them to pay us back at all then? Or is it, we're just,
No.
it's a partnership?
A
Okay.
partnership,
So
no.
if it's a loan, then they have to pay us back.
Right.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing, is it belongs to the township anyways.
Understand, but the accountability is the factor, if we're gonna be a partnership, then we're advancing the money to them and it's not an issue at all.
No, it's $250,000 becomes part of a walkway. So you're not losing money. It's not like we're.
But if it was a loan, some of that money would be coming back to us to use on other
Yes.
projects. And the township has a whole list of projects that need to be done. And I think it does make more sense to have the DDA pay us back as a loan.
Okay, motion is I will accept comments from the DDA. Come up here and use the mic, please. If it's still recording, I don't know. I don't know if I got anything.
Hello, everybody. I'm Cassie Blasick with the DDA. I'm the design committee chairperson, and I've been the spearhead of this project for the last 18 months to 2 years. And I just want to point out that the comment about a loan or partnership in the memo, it was talked about how the township has pathways master plan project and how this project is actually on it. And that was prepared by the planning commission and members of the community as far as what priorities are in pathways in their community. And that is on it. So whether the DDA takes responsibility for this project or the township, it is something that it needs to happen, and it's on the high priority level list for this project. So I just want to point that out, that it's not like a project that we should take for granted or that it doesn't have importance to us in our community. It's on the master plan for the township as well as the master plan for the DDA. So both entities have discussed that it's very important and it's a top priority for connectability and walkability in our community, which has been brought up repeatedly about what the next steps are for improving the downtown area. So thank you.
Okay, so Tammy, to your point, I think the thing to do is that let's have a vote on this motion, and if the motion's denied, then a new motion could be made that would change that. So we have, would you give support on that?
Repeat the motion, please. Well, the motion was A or B. We're gonna do A or B. We should really be doing.
So the motion was to commit the money to partner with the DDA. And according to legal advice, it may possibly be a township donation or it may be a loan.
Can't be donation. Can't use that term.
Contribution.
Partnership.
Partnership.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Okay, ready to vote.
Mr. Howe.
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Miss Frederick.
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes no. Mr. Salvia.
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
So, thank you. at least we have a commitment. That's the most important part. And in terms of how it ends up, it may still end up based on what the law says that it's going to be a loan. So at least we know the money will be set aside in one form or another, and we'll go from there. Okay, next item. Where are we? What? Didn't vote?
We have to vote him back in. No.
Oh, I didn't miss him. Man, oh, man.
Yeah.
So do we need to do a budget amendment at this time? Because
Yeah, so I usually do pretty good for the DDA.
go ahead, make.
Oh, this also, but it also has 401 on there as well. Removing. So us borrowing 375 from the DDA does not give us 675. Yeah.
What's the first payment that would be from the DDA?
You know,
I need some money.
Let's.
there's a commitment to, in essence, it's a commitment to say, yeah, we're gonna make sure there's money there. But we're not spending it right at this point. So maybe we don't need to do this budget amendment and we need to get that more.
Yeah, I
figured
think we
out.
need to fix it.
So
Okay.
we'll pass on the budget amendment.
Well, on that note,
Why?
if this project begins, the DDA needs to make a deposit to the company, the contractor that starts the project.
I thought he was working for free.
So all we need to do is do a DDA appropriation fund balance of 375,000. That's from the DDA savings to capital improvement for a total of 375,000 instead of 625.
Okay.
So eliminate the 250 from the capital.
All right. We'll reissue this document.
So I move to approve the budget amendment as amended. Revenue from the DDA capital improvement project will be 375,000. And capital improvement expenditures, oh, that's not true. DDA expenditures from appropriation fund balance of 375,000.
All right.
For the boardwalk project.
Support.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Mhm.
I supported it.
No, you're fine. This is, well, he wants to know if he needs to vote. So this is a budget amendment,
It's-
only the DDA. So it wouldn't,
Yeah, I think this is okay. You're just straightening out about transferring money for a budget. You're not contributing money towards a specific project.
because the DDA already approved this budget amendment. Then we need the board to approve it too, because the board holds our budget, the DDA's budget. Motion and second. Any
All right.
discussion?
Vote, please.
Mr. Sharlick,
Garlic, yes.
Ms. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes, Mr. Salvia,
Sylvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Howell votes yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
Holy crap, it's 10:22.
New business 9C.
Yeah.
Hire full-time firefighter Alexa Lease.
Support.
Chief, do you have any comments on that? No, I'm just reading the item. I took over.
She's trying to,
Oh,
We're doing, right?
No, she's already currently a paid on call member. She'd be moving from paid on call up to full time
we'll make
with
the
the
motion.
resignation of another
Yeah.
firefighter.
I moved to approve hiring full-time firefighter Alexis Weiss.
Support that. We just said that.
Moved and supported. Vote please.
No,
No. I'm not allowing it.
let's go.
Mrs. Frederick.
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia.
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe.
Mr. Howell votes yes.
Mr. Charlotte.
Charlie, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion.
Okay, next item, Duck Lake Pines Park improvements. This is the ongoing repair of the rinks and all that stuff over at Duck Lake Pines. So we've got this hockey rink that has never held water, never will hold water, never was built correctly. It's failed. And is going to be incredibly expensive to repair. So I've run into a couple of scenarios where I saw some guys out there with remote control cars. And it made me think of a time where I went to a building over off of M59 and they were running these outdoor 4-wheel, in the dirt kind of cars, RC cars. And it seems to me that this is a perfect opportunity to go in and pull the asphalt out of that thing and then to replace it with some type of soils or whatever these RC car guys like to use, and then get an RC club to manage it. And that way it's kind of like the skate park. It's got kids that are building a skate park and they're active in it, and it's an ownership thing. And this is an opportunity where you got kids that play, adults that play with these things. And I think this could be a pretty interesting high usage application for this hockey rink. We'd leave the boards up, everything the way it is. In order to get it safe for skating and hockey, we're going to have to pretty much dismantle all of the sideboards. Jeremy, you've seen the nightmare that's going to be. But if you let them have it and they can beat the heck out of it with those little cars, it's not going to have any negative effect. So it's not like people are skating into them at 40 miles an hour and smashing up bodies. So what I'm asking for is to have the board's approval to move forward and see if we can make this a viable use for the hockey rink. And then at some future date, somebody decides they want to make it turn into something else, you dig the dirt out and pour cement in there or whatever and turn it into a hockey rink or more pickleball courts. But the pickleball courts were highly successful. We have huge usage on that. So I think that what you really want is you want as many people using those items as possible. And this is a pretty good probability. We got RC, or a track right there by Duke's that, man, they use the heck out of it. And it's not even radio controlled. So I think I know there's a pretty big group of people that do play with them. So
I'd like to make a motion. I recommend moving forward with the demolition of the rink and repurposing the space into an RC car track contingent upon, track, period. Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Any questions?
How much do you think this would cost?
Well, what we'll do is we'll use our in-house maniacs and go out there and rip out the asphalt, get rid of it, and then bring in some dirt. So it's
Minimal, like under 5,000?
I would say it probably costs more than that. But at this point, it'll be an experiment. So the actual costs, we'll bring that up at a later date, a later board meeting when I can get out there and look at it. What's that?
Just watch
That's all
your,
right. That's okay.
just watch your Achilles.
It's enclosed. I mean, what can you say? All you can do is see how it goes. If it doesn't go so well, then oops, we'll try something else. We still have to pull the asphalt out of there to fix it anyway. So this is a case where pull it out, the dirt that's there, we'll let them play with that and add a little bit and see what happens. And if it goes great guns, then shoot, we got something. If it doesn't, we're halfway there, so. All right, so any more discussion on that? Vote, please.
Okay, voting, Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howell votes yes.
Mr. Sharlick,
Charlotte, yes.
Ms. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
All right, get to play in the dirt. You gonna get in trouble? Focus left a couple hours ago. Somebody make a motion. I guess
I make a motion to purchase and install security cameras at Steeple Hall. Not to exceed $8,000.
Support.
Okay. That's gonna come from budget line 101-672-936-002. Want to add that
Yes.
to it? All right. Did I hear support on that?
Well, it comes from 101 Steeple Hall Building Maintenance.
We have sufficient budget for this item.
Yes.
I don't think you can go wrong with security cameras these days, so I support it.
Yeah, in 25.
Okay.
So Tammy supporting.
Moved and supported. Vote please. So,
All right, Mr. Salvia. Mr. Salvia.
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howell votes yes.
Mr. Sharlick,
Charlotte, yes.
Ms. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Hamel,
yes.
motion carries.
Okay. Next item is revised as a personnel policy memo. What the heck are we doing? Tammy, take it. Go, run.
Yep. So the courts made a ruling and now we all have to offer PTO or sick time for every employee. And so our current policy provides PTO, which could be used for sick or vacation. But because the laws are so strict, and I really don't like them, but we have to have two different banks of hours accruing sick time separate from vacation time. And the sick time can only be used when you're sick or one of the reasons designated within the law.
Question
And-
for you, Tammy. Is this gonna stat, like right now, when I read the current policy, there is no sick time, right?
It's all in one big bank.
Okay.
And now we're gonna the vacation bank will be accruing at the same rate as what we currently do.
Mhm.
And then on top of that, there will be sick time. One nice things about this, even though I don't generally like the policy, is that the way our current system works, there's sort of a negative motivation to take a sick day because you're using up time that you could potentially use as vacation later on. And so having a separate bank, then people will feel more likely to say, well, I'll go ahead and stay home today instead of showing up to work and coughing all over my coworkers. So that is one nice.
I don't disagree with the sick pay thing, but my understanding based on reading it is that we're gonna potentially add 9 more days of paid time off, correct?
Correct.
Only
And I didn't like that
claim.
either, but yeah, it's state law. Now, potentially we could
Yeah, you don't have
have,
to be sick. You can use it for any reason you want. You could need emotional support for your dog. You could want to go take your grandma to the dentist. My point is, in reading our employee stuff, I'm not an employee,
but I have my own employees too. That I kind of feel like are between 13 paid holidays and the occurred time we have for vacation. I think we kind of have enough paid time off as it is, and adding 9 more days. I understand we have to add 9 days, but I don't know that we need to add 9 days on top of what we already have. Well, we already have.
So we looked at that and said, what if we subtracted these 9 days or whatever it works out to from what they are currently accruing? And for our part-time employees, that means they would get 0 vacation time, where they are well accustomed to having vacation time. And so it would be a major downgrade. And even the full-time employees, 99% of the time that they take off is vacation time. So it would have a major impact on their ability to take vacation, change from what they're currently
Some other
getting.
questions I have with it are, what if this from the state gets turned down? Because there's big talk that the Senate's going to pass this before February 20th.
So they're talking about disallowing employees who work less than 25 hours a week.
Commissioner.
Well, we already don't have to do this for board members because they're already opted out or not required to do it. But we do have some employees that work, in the range of 25 hours a week.
I have a question.
I don't know if that will work. I think the courts will come back again because they already tried some of this, which is why it was a court decision in the first place. So I think if they take it away again, then the courts are just going to come back at some point down the road and say, no.
The reason why the courts took it away was because the Supreme Court found it improper that the way they made 2 motions in the same meeting. If they would have made them in separate meetings, it would have been fine.
I have a dumb question.
My opinion, my question is, if we're doing this because, from what I'm hearing, we're doing it because the state's saying we need to do it. If the state changes their mind and goes back,
then we'll change the policy.
that's one question. Yeah, I got tons of them. You're gonna have to wait, Brian. One is the way it states it right now is that the sick pay hours will be accrued based on paid hours to the employee. So my question is, will you get sick pay time for holidays and for vacation days?
No, it's only for hours worked.
It says paid hours though. So
Can I ask you a question? Because everybody keeps jumping into each other here. Sick, it says, can be used for situations that meet the state definitions of sick time. Do we have a definitions of sick time?
Yeah, it's in there.
All right. That's scary. All right, thank you.
Okay, so paid hours, you're saying, so if they take a vacation hour, does that count towards accruing?
Or paid holidays. It just says per paid hour is what I'm reading.
Right. I can't really answer it.
I'm not sure. Hey, I'm here because these are questions that
We'll double check with the attorney and do whatever is legally required. The attorney, not Lisa who comes here, not Joelle, but there's another one within their firm that works on HR issues. And she put the wording together for our policy. So I relied on her to write it the way it needs to be written.
So currently though, our policy for PTO, which we currently earn, it is not based on holiday or paid time off.
Right.
And we'll try to mimic that.
I'm like I said, I mean, I'm this is part of being on a board or whatever. So sometimes you gotta not be on the same page, I guess. I'm okay with the state law because it's gonna be the law, I guess. But I think based on my adding it up, you can basically you're at 29 after 10 years, and then you're going to get 13 paid holidays. So now we're at 42. We're going to add 9 more days onto that. So some people could potentially be at 49 paid days off. And 2 things. One is I think that's a lot to be paying somebody not to work. And 2, I I think it impacts the service that the township gives to the community. If there's employees that need, I'm not trying to detract from any employees or anything like that. I'm just saying, I think it detracts from the ability to serve the community.
So I would say that, we need to have something in place by February 21st. I think we could adopt it this way and then do some further investigation and bring something back to the board. We can wait and see what the legislature does and then propose a revision.
I understand the need to change it. I'm just saying that, I made my point, I guess. I understand what we need to do to comply with the state. I just don't think that the state says we have to stack it on top of the days that we already give people paid off. They're just saying that we need to differentiate.
Right, because you have to be able to guarantee that they're always going to have time to take off if they need to for sick pay. And then if with our current system, if they take a bunch of vacation and they use up all their bank, then they wouldn't have any if they got sick.
So what happens if people get sick right now?
So they can take up to a week unpaid.
Spew it all over the place.
Well, I mean, days off are days off. The state of Michigan is broadly giving this to everybody, right? So, I mean, I have to pay sick pay to 15-year-old kids now.
Right.
So, I mean, it applies on a lot of different versions for a lot of different reasons. I'm just saying, and I don't disagree with the sick pay thing. I'm just saying I disagree with the idea of putting just that they're saying we have to give it on top of what we already have.
But you also have to look at, it isn't 20 employees all getting 49 days off. I mean, there's not a lot of people here that have that many hours in to get 49 days. So
Hey, we're not all going to agree on everything. I'm just saying I don't agree with that.
I would be open to considering reducing the accrual rates for vacation time, especially in the upper tiers. I think the first tier I wouldn't want to reduce the first tier. But like you said, some people are going to get so many days because they've been here more than 10 years.
We'll add up to 1 day a week for every week. That's a lot of days off.
I would be open to that.
What's that now? I'm not trying to solve the problem right now. I'm just saying that with the current way it's written, I talked to Rick about this before that, and I read it, did my homework on it. That's just my opinion.
Right.
Well, it could be that, just off the top of my head, that, you reallocate remove some vacation time for people that are up in the 4-week category. You don't reduce the low vacation time people, you reduce the ones that have been there longer.
Yeah, I can understand.
To make that so that's not.
I mean, because in a perfect world, as everybody stated, this is going to get treated the proper way, right? I mean, you get sick 1 or 2 days a week or whatever, or 1 or 2 days a year or something like that. But the way the law is written, that's not the way it is. The way the law is written, you can't ask unless the person's used 3 days in a row, even what it was for. So that's just the way it is, right? And even at that, it's like it's just like magic. You can just say, well, I had to have emotional support for whoever. So,
but if they use it, it's done. They're not going to get more of it.
Correct, right? But I'm just saying it's not something where we can just look. I mean, I can't, as a taxpayer here and looking at everybody else, say that we're going to rely on the honor system.
Let's look at then, if you're okay with it, I mean, to move forward on it, let's approve what we have. We need to do something before the 21st to be compliant, and then what we can do is do some more look.
So in the motion, then I would want to see something in there saying that if there's any changes made to the current legislation, that this is gonna come right back.
Is that your motion?
I'm not gonna make a motion, but I'm saying that's what I'd like to see in it. All right. If you want me to, you might not like it though.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the new revised personal policy, with the exception that if any of the state law changes or the outlook from the governor or the Senate, that we revisit it and potentially revisit it even in the future if the board sees it fit, if once reviewed, if we believe that the hours for some of the top tiers don't meet all the board members' approval. But for now, I think we should put it in place so that we meet state law.
Support.
I thought I was wordy. All right, vote please.
I won't ask you to repeat that.
Did you get it? I'm not sure.
All right. Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe.
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Mr. Charlotte.
Charlotte, yes.
Ms. Frederick.
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia.
Sylvia, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next item, that's the full-time maintenance supervisor position. Okay, so we've been working with a part-time individual, Jeremy, who's sitting here looking at me. And I myself have been engaging in being a maintenance guy. And we also had a part-time, another individual part-time who is most likely not going to be coming back. And I think what we've got is we've got I need to have somebody that I'm not going to be around for too much longer. I hope not dead, but I mean, and especially considering I broke my back and that ain't going so good. So what I'm proposing is that we have a full-time maintenance supervisor. And so at this point, it's just to develop a position. So I'd like to move that we hire an individual to report directly to Township Supervisor, will be responsible for general and skilled labor in a variety of maintenance and repair tasks. Duties will include maintaining public land, parks and playgrounds, township facilities, motor equipment, snow plowing and removal, as well as any other tasks assigned by the Township Supervisor's office or board. The starting salary for this position will be up to $30 per hour based on experience. The successful applicant will be considered a full-time employee, a full-time hourly employee working up to 37.5 hours per week with benefits for full-time employees.
Supervisor Hamel, you said hire. Do you just mean request authorization to post this job?
To post the job. Yes, post the job. Sorry. Well, I guess you could say hire. We have to find the individual first.
Charlotte, support.
Okay, so that's based on post for the job. All right. And it's supported. And any questions? Vote please.
Mr. Howe.
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Mr. Charlotte.
Charlotte, yes.
Ms. Frederick.
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia.
Sylvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so the next item is a change in position for activity center office clerical. We hired Ashley Valdez a year ago or so as part-time, and our director, activity director, see you guys later, would like to put her in a full-time position. And so I guess just to speed this up, I'm going to make, go ahead.
Yeah. I move to approve promoting Ashley Valdez to full-time activity center office clerical starting February 10th.
Support. You got to give the rest of the info there.
Her.
Classified full-time.
Okay, wait, hold on, I'm trying to find it.
In November.
I did this.
No,
right here. Okay. The applicant will be classified as a full-time employee and will accrue paid time off and benefits on a 37.5 hour work week schedule. The position will take effect beginning February 10th.
And we probably need to include the
I will.
salary.
So her current salary and proposed salary is $18.84 per hour.
That should be enough.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported.
So
Um,
I wish to speak to this. So I looked up in 2022, the total compensation packages for the activity center staff was 198,000. And this year's budget that we just approved, it was already up to 295,000, which is a 50% increase just in 3 years. And then if we added this full-time position, it would make it a 60% increase from 2022. We are only 1 month into this budget year, and I would think that we would want our department heads to be planning their needs and talking to us about increased staffing during the budgetary process, which we spend a lot of time on. Also, with the kind of questions we have regarding the economy, what's going to happen, and the potential for going into a downturn, it is much harder to reduce your budget when you have full-time employees as opposed to part-time employees. I had suggested that instead of making this a full-time position, that we used 2 part-time positions. When you have 2 different people, you can actually have them in 2 different places at the same time, where if you have 1 full-time employee, they can only be in 1 place at a time. And in addition to this 5,000 increase in salary, there's another 6,000 increase in benefits, which are not accounted for in the department budget. So I just feel it would be much more efficient and better for the township to have 2 part-time employees. There are other departments within the township that have waited for years working with part-time staff when, you know, their needs were greater than that. But like, for instance, the maintenance department has been working with part-time staff for so long, and they really are just now going to get a full-time employee. So those are all my thoughts. I do feel that this is not a good idea at this time.
Okay, that was a discussion. There's a motion on the table. Did somebody support it?
Yes.
Further discussion? Yeah, it would kind of make sense that if they have 2 part-time people, that you can cover a lot more ground, especially if somebody backs somebody up. So this person was part-time before, so it's not going to change anything for that person. And adding another part-time person may make more sense.
Who's actually who oversees the activity center?
Heidi.
Who does?
Director.
Rick does?
Heidi Bay,
Heidi does?
Director Heidi Bay.
But you're involved in it somewhat, Rick?
Oh, yeah, I mean. the board is-
How hard has it been? Is it hard to get people to do these things like as a
Yeah,
part-time
absolutely.
basis? Because that's
Hard
my
to get
only,
period.
that's my only thing is, I mean, I don't know. $18 an hour is not a ton of money in today's world. But I mean, I just don't, I personally have had a hard time getting employees. So I just don't know. I mean, it would be great if we could get somebody to do it as a volunteer position or for free or whatever, but it sounds like that's not an option. And so how many employees do we have currently? I guess this is an area I just am not filled in on. Yeah.
Rick, do you want me to answer these?
Yeah. Justin, go ahead.
All right, Grant. I'm Justin Lato. I work with Heidi at the activity center. We currently have 3 full-time employees and 1 part-time employee. Ashley is the 1 part-time employee. We currently have, I think, 4 volunteers that come in regularly to help that we don't pay in any way. They're just free volunteers. They're nice people that just help us out when we need help. We currently deal with about, I think it's around somewhere between 6,000 and 9,000 people a month between the 4 of us. More often than not, the problem is hiring Ashley took us about 6 months to find somebody suitable for the job that was willing to take the compensation we offered. We had several people that reached out. We reached out to them back to have them come in and just do a job shadow to see if it was something they wanted. Ashley was the only one that actually showed up. She has been extremely valuable to us as a whole, and honestly, a lot of the times we're working more hours than we're on the schedule for. Sometimes we're kind of mixing and matching as we need to just to make the hours work with the four we have. I don't know that finding another person will happen anytime in the reasonable future. That's why we've been asking to get Ashley to full-time so that she can actually do the work full-time and get paid for the hours she's working. And she's doing this work. Like I know already she's got a trip planned that's going to take her away for several days for the community because we're just doing a trip we're doing, that it's going to be hard to kind of work that into her schedule as a part-time employee because she's going to be gone pretty much longer than her weekly hours already are. Do you have any other questions?
My question is, what does this position entail? I guess I disregard the no knowledge that I have in this, but I just would like to know what the operational.
Okay, so the activity center employees basically all do everything, but specifically answering phones, interacting with guests, planning and setting up our events like our luncheons and our trips. Ashley specifically spends a lot of time dealing with outside companies so that we can get our events planned and organized and reserved. She does a lot of clerical work, helps us with the newsletter and Facebook and social media, all those things.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Justin. Okay. Motion on the table, support, discussion, any more discussion? All right, let's vote.
Mr. Sharlick,
Charlotte, yes.
Miss Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes no. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thanks, Justin. I appreciate that. Budget amendment for that. Okay, I make a motion to approve the budget amendment for the activity center clerical as presented.
Second.
Okay, any questions? All right, moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Miss Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Howe votes yes.
Mr. Sharlick,
Charlotte, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
You picked the wrong night. Okay, did the budget amendment. Law enforcement services agreement. I don't want to go into a lot of detail on this. We don't have a whole lot, any choice really. In order to move forward, we need to approve this contract with Oakland County. There's no room for any negotiation. I did work with 20 other or 12 other township supervisors that use the Oakland County Sheriffs. And we also worked with the Sheriff's Union to try and persuade the commissioners to take a little bit slower approach at the jacking up of the costs. And it went on deaf ears with some pretty negative return comments. So what we have in front of us is a new contract. 2024 rate was for services was $3,109,017. The new contract rate increases are as follows. 2025 will be $3,560,085. 2026 will be $3,884,059. 2027 will be $4,237,510. And so that's like a 14% raise in 25, 9%, 9%, I think is what the numbers are approximately. Now, there's some people sitting here that probably need to have a little description or wondering what went on there.
You know all about it? All right, well. That's a weird way to jack the cost of everything up, but it happened. It's, in our case, we're okay. We're not losing any deputies, but there's a number of communities that are. So, all right, so somebody needs to make this motion.
I make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the new 3-year Oakland County Sheriff contract for 25, 26, and 27.
Support Salvia.
Moved and supported. Any questions?
No questions, but I did want to know how that it is, we're going to go into our fund balance over the next 3 years for the police fund. Oh, it's not in here.
We're just gonna levy some tariffs on.
So it's approximately 700 or 75,000. The first year we'll have to take out of our savings. 250,000 the second year and approximately 500,000 the third year. That we'll have to take out of our savings to fund this. So we'll just have to watch it.
Yep, we're gonna squeeze some lemons and we're gonna make some money, so. Okay. Moved and supported, or that was a motion, and anybody support it? Okay. All right, vote please.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr.
Mr.
Howe,
Howell, yes.
Mr. Sharlick,
Charlie, yes.
Miss Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Oh, yes.
motion carries.
And on that, the truth is that we can't even come close. What we're paying is still nowhere near what Milford and White Lake are paying. I mean, we're paying almost half what they are. So even though this is a big jump, it's still smarter than trying to hire outside. Yeah. Yep. They're pretty nice guys. They're pretty nice guys. Okay, budget amendment for law enforcement.
I move to approve the budget amendment to record changes for renewal of 3-year contract with the Oakland County Sheriff's Department.
Okay, moved and supported. Vote please.
Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howell votes yes.
Mr. Sharlick,
Charlie, yes.
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Hamel,
Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to MCL 15.2681 E to discuss settlement strategy in Scott Roads versus Charter Township of Highland et al. The open discussion of which would have a detrimental financial effect on the township settlement position. That was the motion.
Support Salvia.
Moved and supported. Vote please.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,